out of apartment 5B.
You're now tuned into the Apartment 5B podcast, where we chop it up about hip-hop, R&B, sports, love and life. Hosted by Kill.
What's good? You are tuning to Apartment 5B, hosted by your man Kill. I got my squad with me, as always. Porsche's in the building. What's going on?
How's it going, everyone?
Everything is good. We got my man Rel out of Philadelphia. What's going on, good brother?
Everything good, man. About to learn something.
All right. DJ Rec One, what's going on, good brother?
Hey man, I'm good, man. I'm loving this topic, man. I appreciate y'all on this one, for real.
All right, no doubt. And we got, for the first time, chopping it up with me, my brother, my man. We've been talking for years. My man Snips out of UK, NBK now. What's going on, good brother?
What's going on, man? Appreciate you guys having me involved, man. I'm looking forward to this.
Nah, no doubt. Y'all know me. Let's jump right into it. Today's topic is actually Porsche's topic. I was chopping it up with everybody and was like, yo, we need a salute show. I don't think we had a topic for 1 week.
Right.
And Porsche was like, well, why don't we do a salute show to Jazzy Jeff? And I was like, I don't know if Jeff has enough to discuss for an entire show, but I'm mad at myself because we've never done a salute show to the DJ, who to me is the backbone of hip hop. So Porsche, why don't you talk a little bit about why you wanted to salute Jazzy Jeff and how it morphed into the entire DJ show?
Well, the hilarious thing is you got us doing top fives and Jeff doesn't appear on my top five for DJ, so the whole thing is a bust. But the reason I wanted to salute Jeff is because I just find Jazzy Jeff has had quite a long run in hip hop. A lot of DJs have. I'm not saying that they haven't. But Jeff is still going strong. Like on IG, he puts on these IG lives. He's still doing these live shows. And I just really appreciate how much fun he has, his energy. And I just thought, we never really talk about DJ Jazzy Jeff ever, unless it comes up in, some other topic that we're doing. And yeah, that's where it all came from. But I like the salute to the DJs in general. Doesn't have to be just Jeff. So yeah.
All right, no doubt. And here's the great part about it. I'm gonna talk about Jeff all night long. So it doesn't even matter. So let's do this. Let's talk about, when was the first time you even learned about a DJ? What a DJ was, what a DJ did. For example, for me, I always say I was born in 74, I'm 47. So there was a time when I'm being born in 74, hip hop is just getting bubbling in the Bronx. Like, there may be niggas in Brooklyn that don't even know what's going on in the Bronx. There may be people in the North Bronx that don't know what's going on in South Bronx. So I was there when there was a time when there was no hip hop. So the first time I saw a DJ was, I want to say it was Run DMC on American Bandstand. And it blew my mind because people got to keep in mind, back in the day, you had a band. So I'm used to seeing the drummers in the back, the bass players on the side, the keyboard players on the side, the singers are in the front. And it's like, okay, there's no band. It's just this dude. And the turntables were in the DJ coffins, which looked ill as hell to me in the first place. And I was just blown away. And then when Jay started scratching, it was just like, was the brain explosion emoji. It was like, yo, I don't know what the fuck he's doing, but I want to do that. I want to be a DJ. I was 10 years old in 84. That's fourth grade. Most kids are playing with Transformers and G.I. Joes. I told my moms, nope, I want 2 turntables and a mixer for Christmas. You know what I mean? And the crazy part is again, back in now you say it, and it's just what it is, 2 turntables. In 1984, no matter where you went, it was, why you need 2 turntables? Why you need 2 turntables? Because everybody in that crib, your family, again, this is 84. Most people's families have 1 stereo system in the whole house. People didn't have bookcase, systems in every room and Sonos speakers and Beats by Dre headphones. There was 1 stereo for the entire house, and there was one turntable on it. So everybody's like, "Why do you need two?" And people not even understanding what two turntables in a mix would even do. So that was my first introduction to DJ, and then that just piggybacked right into Beat Street. And after I saw Beat Street, it was a rap, and it was like, I want to do this. One of the pictures in the studio I got, if we could zoom in on that, that's like me in 1984, back with just the two turntables, you know, and the mixer in my lap. I didn't even have enough room on my desk to put the mixer. So that's what it is for me. Snips, what about you, good brother? When is the first time? And I'm sorry, I didn't give you a good enough intro. Talk about what you do, who you are. You're a label owner. I mean, mixtape DJ connoisseur. Talk about your web. So just give them a little brief history. I apologize for not.
No, of course, man.
So please,
all right, so yeah, I mean,
about your background and what you do and everything.
I mean, I'm a DJ from the UK. I've been in Brooklyn for about 3 years now. But yeah, man. I mean, I run a hip hop event in London, which we've been doing now for nearly 15 years. We brought that to New York as well, so I run that in Brooklyn as well. But yeah, producer, DJ, I've got mixtape history, radio history in the UK. I now run my own label, which I put my own music out on. Produced for a bunch of UK artists, a couple of the US underground artists as well. So yeah, man, long history, multiple different things all together. So,
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so where did you first see DJing, and then tap into what gave you the bug to want to become a DJ?
So for me, it was two different things, right? I consumed DJing from the concept of being interested in hip hop when I was a kid, but also where I grew up in the UK. I grew up in a place called St Paul's in a city called Bristol, which had a big Caribbean carnival that happened every year, similar to Notting Hill in London or Eastern Parkway out here in Brooklyn. So I remember seeing floats in the neighborhood when I was a kid. There was like reggae sound systems. So for me, there was that concept of a DJ as a kid, but I wasn't as interested in pursuing music as that. So when I saw, and I think for me, I think similar to you, it was Run DMC, seeing Jazzy Jeff as as essentially the band, right?
Jam Master Jay.
Jam Master Jay, my mistake. Just talking about Jazzy Jeff, I had it in my head. But yeah, seeing Jay with Run DMC as like the band was a different way of seeing what I was used to seeing a DJ, which was like a sound system concept, right? So I think it wasn't until I would say early 90s when I was playing hip hop records in the house, and my dad would tell me, you know, this is a sample of a record that he knew or whatever. And when he would start to play that to me, I'd be like, but this doesn't sound like the record you're playing me, it sounds different. And then I learned what production was, and then I started to see the scratch with EPMD or Primo against Gangstar and Pete Rock with CO, and I started to realize, so these guys as DJs are taking, like the records that they were cutting up was essentially the records they were making these songs that I was listening to, and that was the point where I was like, yeah, I need to do this. So if I need to become a DJ to understand this whole production thing, this is what I need to do. But that was definitely the period. It was production that was like, nah, I need to become a DJ to understand this whole craft, you know?
That's dope. And for people out there who may not know what I was saying, the coffins, if I can zoom in on this picture, that's Mixmaster Ice. That's what the coffins, like that, the boxes that the Technique 1200s will come in and everything like that. So like, and I used to love this picture because number one, it's 85 when this dropped. This dude is dressed up as a ninja. I wanted to be Snake Eyes. Andy was a DJ, so this shit was like Snake Eyes as the DJ. So that's Mixmaster Ice. Definitely shout out to Mix. DJ Rec 1. What about you, bro? I mean, Queens, Jersey, everything. What made you want to, when's the first time you saw DJ, and what gave you the DJ bug to become a DJ?
So my early years, man, I grew up in Germany. So for me, I didn't grow up in the 80s, like seeing hip hop. I always got it secondary. So the first time I can remember actually seeing somebody DJing was a VHS tape. And it was, I found out later, it was DXT scratching on
Herbie Hancock.
The Herbie Hancock joint. Right. That's the first time I seen that, and I was just like, I'm like 5 or 6. So like Snipe said, you know, we're young, we don't necessarily know, but we're intrigued. Like, what's he doing? You know, that's the first time I actually saw somebody actually scratching a record. You know what I mean? Like to where I was like, okay. And then you figure roughly 10 years later is probably when I actually jumped into it. I missed all that early 80s hip hop just because I wasn't living in America at the time. And I had to go back and reconsume it. And through me reconsuming hip hop, that's when I kind of started to figure out that was something I wanted to be involved in. Like Snipe said, you grow up a child of hip hop. I knew off the gate I was not going to be a rapper. I knew that was not going to happen. But I knew I wanted to be involved some way, shape, or form. I couldn't draw, or I can't draw, so graffiti was out of the question. And it was like, you know what? I listen to music probably different than the way my friends do, just based on conversations we have. My uncles have this huge record collection. Let me see if this is something that, maybe I can jump into that way. So that's kind of how it started for me, just being a fan of the music and then realizing that, I heard music differently than everybody I was around, and understanding that I could take that and put that, into what it is I wanted to do, which was DJing. It just kind of happened that way. I'll save some more for later, but that's kind of how it started.
All right, Porsche, what about you? The first time you saw or heard DJing?
I mean, saw or heard. Again, I talk about it on the show all the time. I grew up in the prairies of Canada. There was no hip hop whatsoever. And we didn't have access to like Rap City or any type of, hip hop on TV. So I don't even remember when the first time I would have heard it on Rap City on Much Music, but that would have been years later after I had already been listening to Run DMC and all the other hip hop that I did have access, NWA, like stuff that I was able to come by. But yeah, I can't really pinpoint when it was. I wish I could, but I can't. It would have been on Rap City.
All right, no doubt. Bro, what about you? When's the first time you from Philly? You know how I feel about Philly DJs. So when's the first time you heard, saw, whatever about a DJ?
Well, the early 80s hip hop, I was too young to really understand what was going on. But I think the first time where I, saw a DJ and I was kind of like just intrigued by it was Beat Street, like the early scene in Beat Street when what was he? It's working. Is that what he was saying? Yeah.
Party people ready to rock. Let me hear you scream.
That and just that making something out of nothing that they were doing early in that movie, like that's what intrigued me about it initially. You know what I'm saying? And then as I got older, I started to understand what was going on, and I could kind of go back and look at stuff. But I remember that vividly when I was a kid, seeing that and like being like really impressed by that and enamored. I had like a record player that I had, and I used to, mess up records trying to, scratch and imitate. You know what I'm saying? My mom would get mad at me. You know what I'm saying? But I was just intrigued by that, you know what I'm saying? That scene right there, that whole little scene, like kind of like opened my eyes to it. And then as time went on, I kind of, got more of an understanding of what was going on.
All right, no doubt. It's funny, I was talking to my young boy, and he was like, I was telling him how hype I was for this show, and he was like, he's young, he's like maybe 25, 26, so that generation doesn't understand anything about the DJ. You know what I mean? And he's like, why do you keep saying they're the backbone of hip hop? And I'm like, bro, you got to remember. Well, not that you got to remember because you weren't alive, but you got to understand that the DJ was what people came to see, what people came to see for the park jams. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because, like, Snips, you were talking about the sound systems, and that's what Kool Herc was known for. You were coming to hear people play the breaks. So you were coming to see the DJ. You weren't coming to see an MC. The MC just came to just keep going. Similar like what you were saying that Kenny was doing in Beat Street. Normally it would have been an MC to do that, because in Beat Street, Kenny basically represented the DJ and the MC. You know what I'm saying? Whereas that's what the MC would do. So that's why you had DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. You had Eric B and Rakim. The MC's name was coming second, because at that point, the DJ was more of who you would come to see before the MC. What you gonna say?
I would go as far to say that if you are a DJ, regardless of what music you play, you are practicing hip hop as an art, right? Hip hop and sound system culture, and like I can never disconnect DJing from the concept of reggae and sound system culture and dancehall culture. But essentially, regardless of what music you're playing, you are practicing hip hop, right? Even if you look at like what Larry Levan and Frankie Knuckles and the house DJs were doing, they were extending parts of the records. They were like, you know, like it. So when I hear people talk about, oh, you know, a hip hop DJ, nah, a DJ is hip hop. You know, there is no such thing as a hip hop DJ. There is just a DJ, and that being a DJ means you are practicing hip hop, even if you don't play a single hip hop record. You know, and I don't think a lot of people understand this idea. Like you were saying, the younger kids, 25-year-old kid is just going to see a DJ as the guy who plays the party, right? The guy who goes and plays the club, and you know, whatever music he plays, that's what he's a, you know, a house DJ or an EDM DJ or a hip hop DJ. But nah, I don't know.
Nah, that's nail on the head, brother. That's nail on the head.
I mean, that's a great point. I never looked at it like that, but you're 100% right.
Yeah, because you look at a lot of DJs who are supposedly a genre DJ. Yeah. You ask them, you talk to them, 9 times out of 10, they started DJing hip hop.
Yeah,
that's what started. That's the reason they grabbed a set of turntables or whatever.
But then you could even say that the original DJs were hip hop DJs and didn't even play any hip hop.
Nope,
because there was no hip hop.
There was no hip hop.
Right. You know, so they like, but they were hip hop. That's what they were practicing the art form of hip hop, even though there was no hip hop records to play. You know,
right. And the funny thing is, one of the reasons why I love, it's just the educator in me, why I love young folk asking me questions, because it helps me map out how I want these shows to go, because I want them to be an educational tool. So, of course, the young boy asked me, well, who's your top 5 DJs? You know what I mean? So now we're going to chop it up about who are your top 5 DJs. And the reason why I say why is because Snips kind of touched on it. You have different kind of DJs. I'll start. My number 5 is Ron G. Ron G is an uptown Harlem legend who was, to me, a blend tape DJ. So what a blend tape is I'm at Morgan in 92. And well, we go back to 91. The first time I heard Mary J's Real Love, and I hear somebody singing over the drums from Top Billin', my head exploded. Like, when do they do this? When do people sing over, this chick is singing over Top Billin'? Like this, like my mind was just blown. And that to me, that's one of the reasons why Whistler 411 was so incredible, because outside of Harlem and New York, I don't know if anybody had ever heard that. Now, fast forward a year when I'm a freshman at Morgan, my man pulls up on campus and he's blasting this tape, and I'm hearing Stephanie Mills, Something in the Way You Make Me Feel, a cappella over Impeach the President. My brain really explodes now, because I'm like, yo, how the fuck is Stephanie Mills singing over my favorite breakbeat, Impeach the President? And I like running my man's car like, yo, what the fuck are you playing? He's like, oh, it's a Ron G tape. And from that day forward, my goal was to grab every Ron G tape that I could find, because that's what he was doing. He was blending those R&B songs with hip hop beats. And again, Puff took it national, but that was something that he got from Ron G. That the whole Mary was the 411, to me, that salutes all go to Ron G. Puff had a great idea to do that.
Puff's whole blueprint is Ron G.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
It has to go back. The love has to go to Ron G. Number 4, I've got DJ Scratch from EPMD. I mean, Scratch is just Scratch. Scratch is so dope. When I'm making beats and I don't have a DJ and I can't get in touch with Rec for a scratch, I will sample DJ Scratch's scratches. So I have sampled, you'll hear in my beats, I'll sample him doing the ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen from EPMD's Give the People What They Want remix. So I've sampled that, time shifted to fit the beat. I've sampled him scratch him and Gold Digger right before the end where he just goes, like, this is how dope Scratch is. I sample his scratches. And I mean, Scratch is just, he's a monster. Number 3, DJ Cash Money out of Philadelphia. A lot of people don't know about Cash. They only had one album out, Cash Money and Marvelous. Where's the Party At? I don't know what you can. I mean, all I can tell people to do is just YouTube Cash Money. Like
I follow him on Facebook.
What'd you say?
I follow him on Facebook for his lives.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where there's some dope scratches on this album, but it's still not enough for you to understand why Cash comes in at number 3. Number 2.
Are we going to jump into that situation? Well, I'll wait till we get there. I know. I got you. No, we'll get to it.
All right. Don't forget, write it down because I don't want to forget that point. My number 2 is DJ Premier. To me, Premier is the dopest DJ at scratching choruses. I don't think he's the dopest DJ ever, but when it comes to scratching choruses, I don't think anybody does it quite like DJ Premier. I was talking to JR about this, how sometimes being the dopest singer doesn't mean you have the dopest choruses. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like Ashanti is not the dopest singer, but I ain't gonna hold you. Ashanti can hold down a fucking chorus. Like she can do that. I don't know if Patti LaBelle can do a chorus as good as Ashanti. Now that's gonna sound crazy to some folk, but Patty may just.
No, I hear what you're saying.
You know, Ashanti just gets in, she's able to just do it. So when it comes to scratching choruses, I just think nobody does it like Premier. For somebody out there who watching doesn't know, I wrote down 3. Listen to the scratches on Just to Get a Rep, him scratching, Greg Nice's Stick Up Kids is Out the Tax. Another one of my favorite ones is Who's Gonna Take the Weight, him scratching that. Mass Appeal. And then The Enemy with Big L and Fat Joe, where he's scratching those C's. It's incredible. Like what it got so bad they had a YouTube DJ Premier scratch where DJs were trying to emulate the scratches that.
No, I did one.
You did one?
I did one on my Instagram. I did Just to Get a Rep, actually.
Oh, okay, dope. Well, I gotta check that out. What's your Instagram while you shouting it out too?
Snips Music.
Snips Music. So go to that, check that out. But my number 1 DJ, who I think is the greatest DJ ever of all fucking time, DJ Jazzy Jeff. Like this dude, when this came out, when I heard The Magnificent, some DJs are good, some DJs are deaf, some DJs are even fresh. But let me tell you a little something about my DJ, The Magnificent Jazzy Jeff. And Will start talking about Transform. Yo, brain explosion emoji all over again. Because at that time, the Transformers was the dopest cartoon out. They made that noise when they would transform. And when Jeff was scratching that, and Will would be like, transform. Yo, my brain just exploded. It was the dopest thing ever. It's crazy. I'm actually reading this book right here, Will Smith's book. Very, very dope book. I'm just getting to the part of Fresh Prince. He talks a lot about the hip hop side of it. That's why I brought this book, for the hip hop side. I don't care nothing about him and Jada's Red Table Talk stuff. I just want to know about hip-hop.
Free Will Smith. Free Will Smith.
But he was saying, I didn't know this about Jeff, that Jeff had cancer as a kid. And that he was like just always in the house. You know, and that his moms wouldn't let him go too far because he was sick. So it was like, yo, Jeff, and it was just like this aha moment of, that's why Jeff is so great. Because all he did was DJ. That was it. He was like, he doesn't go to the corner store. He doesn't go hang out. He doesn't play sports. He doesn't do anything but DJ. I mean, again, you could go to Jeff, anything on YouTube. I mean, this album is a great joint. It's a joint on here called Touch of Jazz when he's just getting busy. I mean, hell, the whole second side of it's down here. The whole second side of He's the DJ, I'm the Rapper is basically a whole Jeff album of Jeff getting busy on the scratches. And you can YouTube, I mean, like I was saying the other day about Jeff and Will, I mean, they had one of the livest stage shows back in the 80s. You know what I mean? And when people talk about Will Smith not being a dope MC, he's not the greatest MC on wax. He's very much a stage MC. You know what I'm saying? So if you ever saw Will and Jeff back in the 80s, they would tear it down. Will would come out, rap a little bit. He let Jeff get busy. Ready Roxy was their beatbox. They would do routines. Listen to Live at Union Square off this joint. You can see how dope they were. But those are my top 5 DJs and why. Snips, who do you have as your top 5 DJs and why?
Man, I mean, to be honest, to narrow it down to 5 is hard. I probably have like a top 5 like producer DJs, top 5 DJs outside of hip hop. I'm gonna put like David Rodigan and Danny Krivitz and a bunch of us. So I'm gonna keep it like 5 hip hop DJs that really inspired me. I'm gonna say number 1 is my guy in London, Shorty Blitz. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him.
Nah, I'm writing these things down. So you said
I would honestly tell you, Shorty Blitz is probably the best club DJ I've ever seen play in the world. And I've seen Kid Capri, I've seen Clark Kent, I've seen like Flex, I've seen it like Shorty Blitz is one of the greatest to ever do it. He also is a great friend of mine. He kind of mentored me, and yeah, I wouldn't be at the point I am if it wasn't for Shorty. So, but like incredible DJ. Incredible
Stop for a second, because you're about to shoot me.
Okay.
When you say club DJ,
Yeah.
what would you? what are the things that make that so dope? Because I love how you said the greatest club DJ. So what is it that club DJ? What is it that he does that makes him so great at being a club DJ?
It's finding that balance and being able to not just play the same records that every other DJ plays, right? Being able, because this is somebody who plays clubs, but is a hip hop head, right? Okay. So he's somebody that I've seen him play. There used to be this club in London called Ministry of Sound, and it wasn't like a hardcore hip hop party. It was a hip hop and R&B party, right? Hip hop, R&B, dancehall, classics, whatever. He's the only DJ that I've seen in there that will come on after a DJ's playing a whole set of, like, you know, Usher. I'm talking like early noughties, right? So big club records, Usher, Donnell Jones, whatever. And he's cutting up 2 copies of Smith & Wesson Bucktown. But the whole place is losing their shit. Like, it's not like he's losing, and then he'll balance back and he'll go into playing some like more friendly R&B stuff, some dancehall stuff, and then he'll go back into playing an OC record or whatever. And I've never seen anybody else be able to do that in London. So cleanly in the way that, like, we're talking early noughties where a lot of DJs they're not bringing 2 copies and going back and forth. He's still doing it, and he's doing it to the point where he's not trying to be too much of a turntablist where he's losing the crowd. It's subtle, but it's still like it's that balance of, like, if you're just a bunch of regular girls who've gone out for a night out, you're not going to be alienated by what he's doing. Whereas if you're a head like us, you're going to be in there being like, yo, he's fucking killing it. Like, that balance, I've never seen anyone do it like that. So I would say he's my number 1. Secondly, I'm going to keep it in the UK and say DJ Mr. Thing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He was part of the Scratch Perverts, which were like, I would say they were the UK equivalent of the Executioners.
You said Scratch Perverts?
Yeah, but Mr. Thing, look at his routines online, playing 45s. Like, I would say him and Coco are, like, if anything, I might put Thing as the top. His knowledge of records. I mean, this is somebody who's put everybody from Finesse to Pete Rock to Buckwild to, like, he's put them onto records. Like, this guy is an encyclopedia of information when it comes to breaks and records. So I put him at number 2. Number 3, I'm gonna say Stretch Armstrong. Okay. I don't think. Again, man, like, I think what I love about Stretch is that he was a DJ, like, his radio show, he was a DJ for the heads, right? But he was still able to play clubs and do it in a way where you still always felt like he wasn't just playing bullshit to appease a club audience, right? Like, even to this day, I've seen Stretch play, and he walks that balance of still being able to play to the heads, but not alienating everybody else, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think a lot of DJs are able to balance that. Also, obviously, you know, legendary radio show. I grew up listening to Stretch and Bobbito tapes. We would literally, you know, in the UK, you would have somebody who had a cousin in Flatbush or Crown Heights who would record a tape and send it over, and that shit would get dubbed, and everybody would have a copy, or it would be sold in the local record stores. They'd copy them up, and you'd be buying bootleg Stretch and Bob tapes in the stores. So, you know, that was very important to me, consuming that, and that helped shape my taste as well, man. That whole mid to late 90s indie rap scene that I was into, that solely came from consuming Stretch and Bob stuff. So Stretch number 3. Number 4, I'm gonna give it to Kid Capri. I don't think there is any party rocker that comes close to the energy that Kid has. I've seen him a couple of times, and he's just ridiculous, man. So Kid would be number 4. Number 5. Damn, do you know what? I'm gonna. I know we got 2 Philly guys in here, so I'm gonna go to Philly. I'm gonna say Rich Medina. And the reason I'm a big fan of Rich is because he's a stubborn motherfucker. I don't think anybody sticks to their guns, and like Rich and Bobbito are similar in that sense. They are not playing music that they don't fuck with, and they will still rock a party. They will still always, and like they're two of the only DJs that I will go and see, and I've got my Shazam out because I don't know what the fuck's being played, but it's dope and I want to know what it is. And I feel like that's something that's totally lost in DJing. Everybody's scared to break records in front of a crowd. Nobody does that. But Rich will find some random 7-inch. It could be brand new, it could be 50 years old, and he's gonna play it, and he's gonna play it in a way that you're gonna be like, shit, what is this? And he's gonna keep the floor. So yeah, I give it to Rich at number 5.
That's dope. Porsche, who you got for your top 5? I'm intrigued because you don't have Jeff. I'm intrigued now.
Well, I mean, Jeff is on my list somewhere, but if I had to narrow it down to 5, I mean, okay, I'm gonna start. Number 5, I have DJ Clark Kent, and really DJ Clark Kent because of, again, I don't have the exposure to, like, you know, I have never seen them live, I've never seen them in person, that kind of thing, but just off of the tracks that he's done, and just the history that he has in DJing and battles and things like that, like, I just think DJ Clark Kent merits being mentioned in a top 5. I think just his, like the imprint that he leaves in the DJ world, and that's again my criteria, which I didn't define because it's all good, but DJ Clark Kent is my number 5. Then I have DJ Scratch. DJ Scratch because, I mean, you guys talked about it. Scratch Vision, like DJ Scratch is just nonstop, and he's so consistent and so dope. And this Scratch Vision stuff that he does, like, and he still does it still to this day on IG Live. Like if you watch it, he takes tracks and stuff that has no earthly business being played, and he just makes it sound amazing. And he does, very much to his name, scratches so perfectly inside of these inside of these records that it's just unbelievable. Like, you're just intrigued. Like, I can't stop watching him. And then, of course, we saw him on the Versus battle, and he was, come on, like, I mean, if you saw that, Scratch was phenomenal on that Versus battle. Then I've got Large Professor. Large Pro is somebody who, same thing, like, again, is always doing miraculous things with tracks, with his own sort of way of doing it. And he's got a very particular soundscape that he uses that's very much like, as I'm like, he, again, I know everyone thinks D Nice was the first one to do these, IG club quarantine or whatever, but DJs were doing this long before D Nice got on board, and Large Pro was one of those. And as you're scrolling, like, you can I hear little snippets of it, and I'm like, no, that's Large Professor. And I go back, I'm like, that's definitely Large Professor. And then I've got DJ Premier and Pete Rock number 1. And I mean, it goes without saying, DJ Premier, like you said, kill for the scratches. And I always tell people, and I love that you said, Premier scratches these choruses and makes them that much doper. And the reason I say that is because if you've ever heard the Craig David 7 Days remix, that song is phenomenal because DJ Premier scratches through that chorus, and it just transforms it so much, and it's just so brilliant. His ear for that is great. And I've had people, I mean, I've got cousins who are, trying to dabble in the DJing thing and all of this, and everyone asks me, they'll DM me and they'll be like, yo, how does DJ Premier scratch like that? And I literally put like 50,000 laughing faces, and I'm like, it's a good goal to have. You're not going to do it. I don't know. I can't really tell you how he does it. I have no idea. But I just love that, people who are like 20, 21 look to DJ Premier for that scratch. And Pete Rock is Pete Rock. If you've ever heard him talk about DJing and just on what he does and break down, if you ever listen to Pete Rock break down what he does and how he does it and how he listens to stuff so that he can, change it, it's just mesmerizing. I mean, it's Pete Rock. I'm gonna always say.
All right, no doubt. And for anybody out there who's sleeping on Pete, check out the scratches on the Just Some Men remix for DOS Effects, because he kills the scratches on that. Rec, who do you got for your type 5, good brother?
Oh boy, here you go with them questions again. So my top 5 changes, man. I don't know about you, Snipes, but like, do you find yourself like when you're practicing different things, your top 5, or who you trying to like, what you're listening to, kind of changes a little bit every couple of years? Mine does.
I mean, I think for me, like I said, I have my top 5 like DJs and then my top 5 producer DJs. So see what you're saying with my producer DJs, that's always
So my top 5 currently, Jeff. I mean, if you're not tuned into what he's doing, and how he's doing that, then you're at the right place. It's a good start with this show. Number 2 is Scratch. Scratch is the reason, probably why I started DJing. Sitting in the crib, I was living in Queens in 88, 89, and I heard So What You Saying? And I was mesmerized by how he finished that up. Like that was probably the first time I realized outside of the DXT situation that, okay, someone else is doing it. It's not Eric, it's not Parrish. What is that? Who is that? And how is they doing that?
And then 2 for that, So What You Saying, because the first album, DJ Caleb Boss was their DJ.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? And the scratches, when you hear You Got to Chill and you hear them scratches, then you hear So What You Saying and you hear those scratches. If you got a good ear, you knew it's not the same DJ, or that DJ just didn't leave the house for 2 years and just practiced every day.
Correct. That is probably the one sole moment I realized, okay, I don't know what this is, but I'm gonna find out what that is, and I'm gonna do that. I remember sitting at my grandfather's coffee table, sitting there doing this, not even knowing what I'm doing, but just, I knew that's what he had to be doing, something like that. Then, from there it just took off on its own. Number 3, local guy. I grew up in the South Jersey, Philly area. Kill, Rel. Y'all familiar with Jay Ski?
Yeah, Jay Ski. Oh yeah.
Jay Ski is my mentor. He is the person that made it tangible and said, okay, you have these turntables, this is what you're gonna do. He grew up in the same city I'm from, and that was when I was like, okay, now I can make this happen. This is tangible. Someone is actually showing me what I'm hearing. Because it's not like with production where you can go get a kick, a snare, and you can figure it out. Like if you don't know what's being done and someone hasn't sat down or showed you, or you just kind of get turntables, it's gonna take you forever. So like Snipe said, you need a mentor. This is something that you walk into this and you don't have somebody that says, hey man, this is a chirp, this is a transformer, this is a baby. If you don't know those terms and you don't know what you're doing, you're lost. So,
I don't think. Sorry to interject.
No, you good, bro.
I don't want to derail this, but I don't think people really understand that, man. Like, I don't think people really understand that. Like, you have to be shown this stuff. You have to be taught this stuff. Even when it comes to like being a DJ and as far as like your records, right? You have to like, even when I started and it's like, all right, cool, so I'm buying all the new hip hop stuff, but I need the classics. There's no Discogs to go and buy the classics. There's nowhere I can down. I have to go and find those classics. I have to go and source them out. Like, I don't think people understand the work and the studying, and like, this is a genuine discipline. This is not like
the dedication.
Sorry, I'll let you get back to that.
Brother, you
good.
You good.
That's a dope point, because, and we'll get into it later now with the whole celebrity DJ and Serato, but there was a certain amount of work and effort you had to put in to become great at this. You know what I mean? And we're going to get into that later. Right there for a minute. Rel, what about you? Who are your top 5 DJs and why?
All right, so with this, I just wanted to go off of what I know. I'm not going to speak on a subject like this and speak on things that I don't know, you know what I'm saying, or haven't experienced. So my top 5, number 5 is Ron G. I was kind of the same as you. When I heard those R&B, that R&B hip hop mashup, like, I was like, yo, this is, I don't know, man. It was crazy to me. Like, I kind of, like when you was mentioning that, like I kind of felt the same way. Like I was just like, my mind was kind of blown, like that they were even doing that. He was even doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
and you know, back in those days, you know, Ron G tapes were in high demand. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
and you know, I always like I was a mixtape dude. So, and those mixtapes are classics. So for number 4, I wanted to take it somewhere else. So, you know, when you go to college out of state and you meet people from different places, you get exposed to different subcultures of hip hop and even stuff that you might not listen to. But I was able to experience kind of the importance and it was kind of like a renaissance for this particular area, and you know, and this person was responsible for that. So I want to give him some shine, you know, and that was DJ Screw.
Okay.
Because it wasn't what I was listening to, you know what I'm saying? But it was a large contingency of people around me, and a friend of mine who I was able to go out there and experience the culture, and like it was crazy. Like when you hear the history of that and how, you know, how that came about, like I was just impressed, you know what I'm saying? Like anytime you do your own thing, something that hasn't been done, and then it captivates the area, like I gotta give you respect for that, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I had him. I wanted to show him some love at number 4. Rest in peace to him, by the way. DJ Premier is 3. The scratches, man, like the scratches is crazy, and like, you know, like The Enemy, Unbelievable, like those are ones. But what really blew my mind was Code of the Streets, because it wasn't even anybody saying anything. It was just a sound, and he was just like, he just killed it. Like it was just a sound, you know what I'm saying? And he was, y'all know Code of the Streets, man. That, you know what I'm saying?
Crazy.
When I heard that, I
Crazy,
said,
man.
man, this dude, man.
Yeah,
So,
it was
like,
on some old like Morse code shit, like you know, you know what I mean, and just scratch it and destroy it, like you know what I mean?
Destroy it, man. Like, and it's like when you hear stories of like how Unbelievable came about, like it was like yo, just throw me some scratches on this beat, and you came up with that, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just like it's crazy, man. And then you know, number 2 and 1, so I'm gonna go. It's Cash Money and Jazzy Jeff. I'm from Philly, and you know my older cousins would not would be pissed off at me if I didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like they're the ones that introduced that to me. With Tap Money as well is another one they introduced to me. You know what I'm saying? And you know they made sure that I got that Philly history and heritage in me through that. You know what I'm saying? And then Jeff, like I was able to see some of the videos of him like doing like what is the Transformer scratching. Like he's just crazy, and like I feel like people that really don't know, they look at DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince and they think of like the TV show. You know what I'm saying? Think of like this dude would destroy you, or like literally. You know what I'm saying? Like even when later on in their career, when they were making like Boom Shake the Room and all that, when nobody was really on I Wanna Rock Right Now, on that album, he killed that, like, and this is later on, like, you know what I'm saying? So like I just wanted to, you know, give him his flowers. So that's my top 5.
Yeah, man. The thing about Jeff, and I tell folk, he was the dopest DJ walking the planet in the 80s. You know what I'm saying? When he was on them tours with Run, no disrespect to JMJ, rest in peace, Eric B, Terminator X, Mr. C, Cut Creator, DJ Wiz with, no, I don't give a fuck, DJ Yella, I don't care who was on the tour, Jeff was better than them all. Jeff was doing every single last one. Jeff went to New York, and I think it was 87 or 88, won a DMC competition, won the belt, the same belt that Scratch had on the cover, the 12-inch. Well, so what you saying, Jeff has won that, Cash has won that, some of my slept on DJs, DJ Miz from Philly. He won that joint.
Fresco and Miz.
We don't play.
Exactly.
Jazzy Joyce was good.
Yeah, Joyce was dope. Shout out to Joyce. I got also on my slept on list. I got Tat Money, who was Steady B's original DJ. Ended up being Kwame's DJ for a minute. I also got DJ Babu from Dilated People.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Babu.
Yeah.
You ever want to hear something dope about Babu? Worst Come to Worst. The scratches on Worst Come to Worst, and there's a track on their last album called Cut My Teeth. That's crazy. Like Snip said, DJ Kid Capri. I mean, just the legendary party DJ. You know what I'm saying? And a DJ a lot of people don't talk about, but who was dope as hell. And during the night, it was probably my favorite mixtape DJ Doo-Wop and the Bounce.
Ooh, yeah.
He had the dope intros at the beginning of every Doo-Wop mixtape. It was the Bounce Squad. It was Lord Tariq before Lord Tariq and Peter Guns. It was Snagglepuss. I forgot the other people who was down with the Bounce Squad. My mind is failing me, but those Doo-Wop Bounce Squad, them mixtapes were just stupid.
Check out Mixcloud. Thank me later for this. There's a live recording of Doo-Wop at Mecca at the Tunnel on I think it's on SoundCloud or Mixcloud.
Okay.
Crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, talking to Babu, I need to just chip in and say J-Rock as well, man.
Oh,
incredible,
trust me,
incredible DJ.
I got a bunch of stuff to talk about them in a minute.
Yeah.
Stupid. Porsche, do you have any slept on DJs?
I was gonna say Jeff is a slept on DJ, and for the exact reason that Rel said. Like, when people think about DJ Jazzy Jeff, they're like, really? Like, he's dope? Like, he was a dope DJ, and you're sitting there going like, yeah, he was very dope. Nobody really sounded quite like that back in the 80s, you know? And not only that, like the longevity. So I would definitely say DJ Jazzy Jeff, as much as people from Philly and you know, Will and just all the fame that he has from Fresh Prince or being in, like, you know, on TV and stuff, as a DJ, he's definitely slept on. I would definitely put Jeff on my slept on list.
All right, no doubt. Snips, you got any slept on DJs? I mean, I'm sure you do because you're a DJ. So you, but
yeah, I mean,
that come to mind?
Yeah, to be honest, man. I mean, like, being from the UK, there's a bunch of DJs at home that I know that could compete on the world stage that just never got their shine because they were from the UK, you know.
Right.
And again, even some of the DJs in my list, Shorty Blitz, I would say, Cutmaster Swift from the UK, DJ Supreme. Shit, there's a bunch. New York DJs or US DJs in general. Actually, I would say the Beat Junkies as a whole don't get the respect that they should. Yeah, man. There's a few. Do you know who's a really good DJ and people don't actually acknowledge him as a DJ? And maybe they are starting to now because they've seen his lives over the pandemic. But Ninth Wonder is dope.
Oh yeah, Ninth Wonder.
Okay.
Ninth is dope. I saw Ninth play at APT in New York when I was out here about 10-15 years ago, and he murdered it. Crazy DJ.
It's his knowledge of music, man. Like, you may not rock with him all the way on a production level, but from the standpoint of having the music knowledge, which is probably one of, from a standpoint of knowing what you're doing behind turntables, you also got to know the music.
Yeah.
He knows the music like the back of his hand. And that is key. He knows how to read a crowd, and he knows how to play what to play. He's on point. He's definitely on point. I'll tell you this, he surprised me. He surprised me.
All right, I'm gonna ask about this later, but Rec, who are your top five?
So I'm gonna finish up my top five, and I'm
my fault. You blacked out for a second.
So yeah, no, I had to grab the door. So J-Ski is my mentor. He's the one who taught me turntablism and how to integrate it in a party. You know, like Snips was saying, that is an art. Because if I'm double backing or I'm beat juggling in a party and you don't know it, but the head knows what's going on, that is an art. That is an absolute art. To be able to do it, either in a party or on the radio to where it's frowned upon, that's an art. Because most program directors will tell you, just blend your joint in, cut it in, do whatever. I don't care how you get the song in, but get the song in. To be able to do that, that's an absolute art. DJ B is my number 4. DJ B. He's from Philly.
Just the letter B?
Nah, B-E-E.
Okay.
He's from Philly. J-Ski has a crew of DJs called the Scratch Mechanics. DJs from all over, right? B and J did a mixtape in '95. That was the first time I had ever heard of DJ B. I had been searching for that dude for 20 years. He popped up at a party I was at Norfolk State. He had moved from Philly to Norfolk and is on the radio. He now has his own radio station called Fresh Radio. Dope, absolute dope DJ. From top to bottom, sick DJ. And my number 5, I am going to go with Trenton's own J.U. Ice, DJ Juice. If you have never heard a DJ Juice mixtape and you lived in the tri-state area in the 90s, you missed out. You missed out. Simple and plain. That's my top 5 as far as just what I'm listening to right now. Slept on DJ is DJ Doodle out of Philly. This dude, man, this dude will rock 45s and tear your whole party down. Period, point blank. With 45s, no Serato, straight 45s. Doodles is sick. Excel. Rich Nice, he was third bass's DJ. Did all the cuts and scratches on the third bass albums. That man got no shine because the group broke up. So Rich Nice.
With that one rec, DJ Rich, for people out there watching, check the Product of the Environment, the remix, and listen to those scratches. And that's DJ Daddy Rich. That to me is some of his best work. I'm always pointing anybody to that remix for those scratches.
Yeah, he basically, he was another DJ I listened to early on and was like, okay, all right, yeah, I got it. But those are my slept on.
All right, Rel, any slept on DJs?
I'm gonna go Tony Touch. I used to love Tony Touch, 50 MC mixtapes. Crazy, like it's some classic stuff on the mixtapes, bro. Like the DITC section of one of the mixtapes is crazy. Tony Touch with that dude, and another slept on Rock Raider. I think it's slept on. I saw a video of him. I think it was Busta Rhymes concert or whatever. He was a DJ, and he was killing it, man. That I saw that, it made me go back and do some research. Like a lot of the DJs like that I didn't know about like that. I would just go back and research it, and you go down that rabbit hole of just finding stuff, and you kind of appreciate it more. And I always say this, like we got 2 DJs on here and a producer. Like I give y'all a lot of credit, man. Like because y'all make magic out of just stuff. Like y'all are geniuses for doing that, man. So I appreciate what y'all do.
Salute.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Now here's the wild part. So somewhere along the line, the DJ got faded out. He got pushed out. In the 80s, if you wanted to be a rapper, if me and Rel were best friends and we wanted to be a rap group, we had to have a DJ. You could not just be just the 2 of y'all. You had to have a DJ. It was a prerequisite. It's like it just is what it is. By the time the 90s crept in, you started to see more MCs coming up. You'd see a Redman. You know what I mean? I forgot. I know his DJ's name. What's his DJ?
Twins. DJ Twins.
Right. Yeah. But the thing is it wasn't like Redman and Twins. It's like you really have to be a diehard Redman fan to know his DJ's name. Keith Murray, K Solo, Das Effects. You had these groups popping up. Nas. You know what I mean? You had these MCs that were coming up that no longer needed a DJ. So why do you guys think the DJ got faded out once the 90s came into play? Porsche, what do you think, sis?
I don't know, to be honest, but I think that it had probably something to do with the business side of it, because I know that a lot of times, well, not a lot of times, but I guess if you read Rakim's book, Check the Technique?
Yeah.
Right? He kind of mentions that there was some sort of, friction there because he's doing some stuff and Eric B is doing some stuff, and then there's like a conflict with who's doing more and what's going on. And I think it had to do with the business side of things on the back end, not so much the friendship. And of course it permeates into the group and the chemistry because now, everyone's in their feelings and things are, being said and done. And And I think that's what it is. And I think it really, you know, MCs were able to, they were like, okay, well, this is what it seems like to me as an onlooker. Like, MCs were like, okay, well, I've got my rhymes, and there's like, you know, DJs everywhere, producers everywhere. I can really just go and, you know, connect with these people. And then the DJs were thinking the same thing. Like, damn, if he's going to go out and, you know, expand his network and, you know, hook up with this guy and that guy, well, I'm going to go and do outside production and DJing as well. And that sort of kind of commingled and everything blurred. And I think that's where it sort of, everyone kind of went on their own, and it wasn't needed anymore. Just naturally, like organically, I think it just sort of fizzled away, and everyone just did their own thing. That's what I think.
Okay. For me, I think a couple of things. Number one, the DAT machine. Because when the DAT machine came into play, it was like, I can just put all my stuff on this tape, play it, hit play, and I'm good to go. And it reminded me similar, most people know my whole family are musicians. My mom is a jazz musician, my uncle's a bass player, and he played in a band in Philly called Axis. And I remember when he first got his drum machine in maybe like 82, 83, he was so hyped on some old, I can practice now and I don't need the drummer here. You know what I mean? So when drum machines came up, that almost was the death of the band, because now you didn't need a whole band anymore. You know, before I had to have the drummer to keep the pace and to keep the tempo and everything for me to be able to practice. But once the 80s came into style, you know, the drum machine basically killed the band. You saw less and less bands. When you go back to the 70s, everybody had a band, everybody had a drummer, everybody had a bass player, similar to what we're saying about everybody had a DJ in the 80s. The DAT to me just killed that, you know, just deaded that, and it was like, oh, we don't need DJs anymore. And then I do agree with what Porsche said about the business side of it, because one thing, and people forget that Google was, you know, Google was old. He may have been 28, 29 when Words I Manifest came out, and I was 14, you know. And Premier was talking about how he said, yo, bro, if we gonna sign this record contract, you gotta do more than just DJ. Because if that's the case, then I'm just gonna pay you for the shows we do. So if you want to get half this money, you're gonna have to do something else. And that's what got Premier into doing production. You know what I mean? So I think what essentially happened is, I mean, no disrespect to the names I'm about to say, but Eric B wasn't the greatest DJ. You know what I mean? So after a while, it's kind of just like, you know, why are you here? DJ Polo, I'm hearing he didn't even do half the scratches on the Cool G rap albums. Man. You know what I mean? So
he didn't. Dr. Butcher did.
Ah, right. Wow. So you have situations where now you the DJ in the group, like, bro, how you gonna be my chauffeur and you don't even drive me? like, bro, that's your job. How you gonna be my chauffeur but don't drive? You in the backseat. So I think, and it also came into the business of just money. You know what I mean? I can cut half of this money out, you know what I mean, of splitting this with you if you're really not doing anything. So, you know, to me, it's the DAT tape along with the business. Snips, what do you think about why did the DJ get faded out like that in the 90s?
I have two theories, man. One, I mean, if you look at the four elements of hip hop and what out of those four can be monetized through music, right? Really, it's just rapping. You can't really monetize dance. You can't monetize DJing, and you can't monetize graffiti when it comes to selling music, right? So obviously we're always going to make the rapper the forefront. DJing, you potentially could, because you still needed a DJ for a live show, and a lot of DJs were producers, right? So essentially, if you think about hip hop as production, you had to really be a DJ to be a producer to some level, because it was about your record collection. It was about understanding the breaks. So I think if you look at through the 90s, you still had DJs that were DJing for the artist but producing as well. Once Illmatic became, you know, this kind of like holy grail of rap albums that it changed the whole format of how producers produced for artists. So it wasn't a case of Pete Rock produced the whole Pete Rock and CL Smooth album. Premier produced the whole Gangstar album. Suddenly things didn't work like that, and the DJs that were DJing for groups became producers in their own right. So they weren't necessarily group DJs anymore, they were just producers, right? So the artists themselves didn't need a singular DJ to be part of their group, they just went to the DJ who'd become this superstar producer. Then if you look a few years down the line, people didn't want to play for samples anymore, so they started to alienate the type of producer who was also a DJ. And they were going to producers who didn't need to have a DJ background because they weren't using samples. They didn't come from a culture of collecting records or breaks. So I think those two things were pivotal in cutting out how important the DJ was to the music.
Right. This is a dope point about the producer DJ element, because, you know, I always said, you know, most people who are producers, some started off as DJs.
Yeah.
Or many became DJs, because you're essentially doing the same thing. You're trying to blend
It's one and the same.
Yeah, you're blending two records together. You're finding the same tempo. So it's like, okay, let me find this sample. Let me find some drums. Let me get the tempos together, and here we go. So to me, it's like you said, it's like when people don't realize Buck Wild from DITC was a big mixtape DJ back in the 90s. You know, I have a whole slew of Buck Wild mixtapes. So again, it's never a shock to me when a DJ ends up becoming a producer, because it kind of goes hand in hand. Rec, what do you think? Why do you think the DJ kind of got X'd out like that in the 90s?
And it's funny, man. Y'all points I wrote down that, I put a $sign and production in that order. The DAT machine killed it. You didn't have to, human error, that's a big thing. You didn't have to worry as far as like having to pay a DJ. You know, that's a big thing. And then with human error, a lot of people don't understand, like when you perform, you're not always in an arena. You could be outside. I'll caveat to the Big Cat Biggie situation where he threw the water bottle at. Like, you know, with phase, that's not an issue today. But in '96, the wind's blowing, and you got a shaky stage, and you trying to get this DJ to, you know, drop stuff on the 1 and the 2, like, and the needle skips. Come on, man! Like, it cut out. It made it to where it could be a flawless show, and you didn't have to worry about paying somebody for their fuck ups, because that DJ still gonna want their money regardless of that needle skip. You ain't got to worry about that. With technology and money in the business, like you guys said, moved the DJ to the background, to where, you know, the next step was production.
Right.
You know, it was the next step. It was inevitable. It was gonna happen. It was already happening, but you know, that kind of just moved it a little bit faster. Like, okay, my show money's gonna dry up. No problem. I can get money based on the samples I can use with these 4,000, 5,000 records I got down here. That's where I'm going.
Right. Bro, what you think, good brother?
I think, you know, all y'all made good points, and I think it's a perfect storm of all those things. Like the point was made earlier, like, out of the 4 elements of hip hop, which one can you really make money off of like that? And that's only the MCing. You know what I'm saying? Like the graphing, the dancing, and DJing. Like, how do you monetize that? You know what I'm saying? And with, you know, the advancements in technology and just how the world advanced more, and then the industry advanced to more of a money-making industry, you know what I'm saying? Like, it kind of phased the DJ out. And then another thing is, like I was saying, a production, like, so it's like, you got Gang Starr, you got DJ Premier producing everything. So you telling me I could not be a part of Gang Starr, but I can get Premier to produce on my album, and then I can go get, I can get Q-Tip to, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like, so then it turns it into more of just the production side and not necessarily the DJ, unless it's the live show, you know what I'm saying? So right. I think that was a good point. I think all of those things kind of just phased the DJ out as far as to the mainstream, like being in the forefront of the the rapper and the DJ dynamic. It started to put the rapper in front of and the main person in that dynamic. So,
and actually to add on to that, to give you an example, when I used to DJ for a group in London called Poisonous Poets, right? I used to produce for them and I used to DJ. When I would DJ live shows with the artists that I produce for, it's a different experience when you're the producer and the DJ, because you understand the records that you're playing, you're understanding where to cut shit out, you're understanding where, like, you know, like there's a different synergy with a group when you're the DJ and the producer. So
right.
when you look at if you've ever seen Gangstar perform, or you've seen Pete Rock and CL Smooth perform, the synergy as a collective and as a group is much different to, like you say, watching, you know, Redman with Twins or Nas with whoever he's got DJing that night for him. Like, you know, like Green Lantern was spinning for, like, not, and that's not to knock those DJs at all, but like when you're actually in a group and you've produced those records that you're spinning for that artist, it's a different thing. It's a whole different thing.
It's similar. Large Pro was talking about that when you're an MC and a producer and you produce for yourself. The synergy is just different because I don't have to sell you on this beat. Like, I'm making the beat for me. So I know how to ride the beat. I know how to do that. So that's a great point too. Rel, we did
that's why. Sorry, I just have a question. Like a couple people said that the DJ wasn't able to be monetized. What does that mean exactly? Because from what I know of the industry, like, actually the DJ was monetized. They were with an MC. They were like, there are DJs that have put out records. Their DJs are required for live shows. There's no rapper that's going to get booked with a live show who's just walking out on stage with a mic and performing. Like, so help me understand what that means.
Okay, let me give you an example.
Let me take this first real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
One of the things is you have to look at the time of it. So when you're talking about the early 90s, you could have a person walk out on stage with just the DAT tape playing. You know what I mean? And then you're also talking about in the 90s, we didn't get DJ records yet. Like, we didn't get the Funk Flex 60 minutes mixtapes. Like, we didn't get those things came later on in life. Like, now Questlove can do a show and he's just spinning. Like, that didn't exist in the 90s. And at least I can only speak for Philly, Baltimore, where I was at. Those things didn't exist. Like, you wouldn't see just a DJ Jazzy Jeff is gonna be, you know, downtown at Gotham. Like, that, it didn't exist. Like, so at that time in the 90s, like, now a DJ can stand on their own. You know what I mean? Like Snip said, you know, production wise, all those things, it's like the DJ kind of came back, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But to me, like, in the 90s, you just weren't going to see DJ Jazzy Jeff is playing by themselves. If you saw that flyer, you'd be like, well, where's the Fresh Prince?
Well, but you did have DJ, I just checked the release date of DJ Cool's first album, and that was 1990. You did have
let me clear my throat.
Who was he's all about scratching. He's a go-go
DJ.
Nobody looked at Cool as a hip hop DJ.
No, but there were DJs that were, so there was an ability to monetize DJing, right? So
I mean, if you look at it comparatively,
but that's
DJ Clue came out. Right, DJ Clue came out in the 90s, right?
Clue came out in 95.
Yes.
Okay, so that's mid 90s. Okay,
right, but again, but I'm just talking about the beginning of the 90s. And DJ, like, I don't know any human being who really fucks with Cool like that. Like, nobody.
You gotta be from DC for that one.
Yeah, like that's a specific thing. So what at least for me, what I'm saying monetize, like, it's a different world now. Like, so by the time Clue came up in like 96, and then what happened is that record labels began to see, okay, we can break records through mixtapes. So times change. Like with hip hop, especially in the 90s, a year or two can change the whole progression of the culture. Like I tell people, in 92 when I went to Morgan, 91, 92, Paris said, still I haven't seen one rapper living comfortable. Okay, Paris Smith, EPMD, Tribe Called Quest was still living at home in their mom's crib. Gangstar, one of the biggest groups in the world, is living with Branford Marsalis in his basement. Fast forward 2 years, now we got MTV Cribs. Now rappers rappers are rich. So a 2-year span can change everything. So by the time when Clue first started with the exclusive, it was like, all right, cool, that's dope. But then what ended up happening was, then Bad Boy partnered with Clue. So now you're starting to get into the era of where now you could monetize being a DJ by yourself. And then like Rockefeller had Clue. I forgot, like almost every record label was having a DJ kind of push their stuff out there.
But it's also important to acknowledge even there, Clue was being monetized for everything but the fact that he was DJ. Because not like the monetization of Clue had nothing to do with him being a DJ. What they realized is these people, it's like the same with Khaled. Nothing about Khaled
is a DJ.
As a DJ, right? They're called DJs. Like even with Clue, there was no DJing on Clue's tapes by that point.
I was just about to say there was never any scratching. It was never any blending. It'd be Clue, 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 and then he just drop an exclusive. And we fucked with Clue because we knew if you get a Clue tape, you're gonna get the newest shit ever. It was never about DJ skills. It was literally about. I don't even know.
He was plugged in the industry and he got the records first. That was it. And like Portia's right in a sense that, you know, there were Flex, you know, Flex did release albums, but if you think about it, comparative.
Isn't that like Kid Capri's biggest thing is he sold out everything he had out of a back of a van, like just because people wanted to hear Kid Capri's shit, right? So
no doubt. But what I'm saying is if you look at it comparatively to rappers, it was such a small amount of DJs that were able to do that, and the rappers could exist without the DJ.
I just wanted to clarify that because when we say like the DJ can't be monetized, it sort of means that there was no ability to monetize, but there was. It was just not as prevalent in the 90s.
It was a lot more work.
Yeah, right. But even DJ Quick came out early 90s as well, right? And he was a
rapper. He was a rapper. Like,
he wasn't known as being a DJ. He was known for being a rapper. So just at that time, it's almost like saying like, you know what? There was a time when breakdancing could be monetized for a minute because hey, you know what? Michael Jackson needs breakdancers to teach him how to moonwalk. Or Michael Jackson needs breakdancers in the Thriller video. Or you know what? What's that movie with Irene Cara? Flashdance. We need a breakdancer to teach her how to do a backspin, and then that shit disappeared. So
I'm gonna break your heart right now, and if I'm not gonna tell you who the artist is or the DJ because I don't want to throw them in the shit, but I know for a fact that there was a DJ who was being paid $500 a show to DJ for one of the biggest possibly the biggest rapper in the world, who would have been getting upwards of 6 figures a show, and the DJ was getting broken off $500 to be his DJ. That's the difference in the value that is placed on how important the DJ is to be a part of a live show at this point. Because even a drummer in a band that's being paid $10K is not getting paid $500. But DJs are seen as so insignificant. You're just, because at this point, you're not there to be a part of the show. You're literally there to press stop and play on a CDJ.
Right.
You know?
I mean, it's the point that I bring up all the time. For me doing ticket giveaways at the Howard, the only time in 3 years through every hip hop group that's come through DC that I saw a live DJ performing for was the Dungeon Family. And they had 2 DJs scratching live. Every other DJ is just like Snip said. Of course, you could do it. Yeah. If you can turn on and off a light switch, you could be a DJ right now.
It's expendable.
So, again, it's not that maybe that a DJ can't monetize, but like Snip said, 500 to 6 figures, like to me that's not monetizing. What am I going to do with $500? I can't. My cable bill is $300. So what am I going to do with $500?
Not even that. You got to think. My mixer base price is $1,800. I can't. Snips to tell you, look, it's a certain price we ain't getting out the bed for. Yeah. Because I have to keep my equipment up. I have to still go dig for records, even if I do use Serato. I still got to dig for certain records because I still need to digitize those records. It is expensive to be a DJ. This is not a cheap startup. No, it don't work like that. So I'm not getting out the bed for $500. I can go make that on a mixtape in a week. I'm not getting out the bed for $500.
I'll give you a great example. Will was talking about this in his book. He said, when we went to when he started Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, him and Jeff owed the IRS millions of dollars. They were broke. Will was trying to get Jeff to come out to be on the show. Like, bro, I got you. We gonna write you into the show. Woo. Jeff was like, nah, I don't want to do it. Will was like, nigga, you broke. You owe the IRS. This is what I mean. Now, this is 1990. DJ Jazzy Jeff, the greatest DJ in the world right now, has no way to monetize himself. Greatest DJ in the world, hands down. 1990. Jeff Easy, eyes closed, broke, living in his mother's house, owing the IRS millions of dollars. So that's what I mean by at that point in time, a DJ couldn't be monetized because Jeff couldn't just say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go on tour by myself. Nope, not gonna happen. Nobody wanted to see a DJ by himself in 1990.
And even if you're a DJ doing a DJ album, you still need a bunch of rappers to make it work.
Exactly. The Kid Capri thing, the reason why Kid Capri got the jam with Coach Young, you got the book because Biz signed it. You know what I mean? And that album did horrible. It didn't sell anything.
No.
You know what I mean? Because at that time, it's almost like how I say everything in life is about time. When Kane came out in the Don't Curse video with the silk shirt on, with the champagne, we always like, what the fuck is going on? But then fast forward 2 years and Jay-Z does it and it's the shit now. Everybody wants a shirt and champagne. So it's just the time. The same thing. Funk Flex couldn't have dropped that album on Loud Records in 91. Nobody would have wanted to hear Funk Flex. And think about this, it's just like Snip said, you needed MCs to be on that. So now you need a budget for that. You know, so that's what I mean. Like now it's a much different place. But in the 90s, if you weren't DJing, it was like, what am I going to do? Like, I don't have anything else to do to make it.
I got one last piece so that way. Porch, think about it like this. DJs don't get up there and make their own sounds. We got to play records, right? With those records, what happens? Publishing. Those artists can sue you for that. So, yeah, it's tough to monetize at that time the art of DJing. Where'd Kills go? Did he leave us?
Go ahead, Porsche. Go ahead, host.
Make it happen.
I don't know where he was going with it. I don't know what part of the questions he was at.
He'll be back shortly, I'm sure.
Yeah, he'll be back.
But I think you are right though. Now we're at a point where the DJ is able to monetize DJing, but what they're monetizing isn't actually DJing. It's influencers and personalities, and it's not the actual art of DJing that's being monetized.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I've ever heard a Khaled album with him.
DJ Scratch monetizes from Scratch Vision.
Yeah, he does. But even
right. Pro.
But again, we're looking at it. But we're looking at Scratch Vision is what, maybe 5 years ago. We're talking from 19.
No, sorry, we're talking about now. No, we.
Oh, now.
But what I mean is, even still, unless you use Scratch as an example, because he's actually a great DJ, and what he's selling you as a product is actual DJing, as opposed to Khaled that's selling you a personality or whatever, right?
Right.
But even with that, I don't like to speculate what other people earn, but Scratch monetizing off of Scratch Vision, it's still incomparable to the way a rapper can monetize him being a rapper. Like Scratch is never going to be able to take that to the level that
but that's kind of irrelevant, because that's like saying a teacher will never make as much as a doctor. Of course not. They're different professions, right? So
but I mean,
but considering we're talking about where the DJ was more prevalent than the rapper,
right.
So it comes down
guys, sorry, just excuse me 1 second. I know this sounds bad. I came straight from work and logged on, so I'm just about to grab my food. I'm gonna be right back.
Good, brother. It's all good. And I think too, Porsche, the other way of looking at monetization is how much money do you need? Because here's the thing, anything could be monetized. I could work at a homeless shelter and make $5 an hour, and I'm making money. Is that enough money to survive off of?
I was just trying to clarify for people listening that.
No, I totally get it.
Monetize. It doesn't mean that it was impossible to make money off of being a DJ. It was just, I just wanted you guys to clarify what you meant by that.
It's kind of like the time and spacing of being able to make money off of DJ. Like with black folk, there was a time we couldn't use a white water fountain. There was times we had to ride the back. So there's a progression there. So it's the same thing with the DJ. There was a time they couldn't make any money. Now we begin to see the progression of, now I can do these things. Black folk couldn't vote. Women couldn't vote. Like, it's the progression of the DJ. So just in the 90s. I want to be
really clear. I don't consider DJ Khaled anything but a promoter. Like, he's like a promoter. He's not, he's not a DJ, he's not a producer, he's not a rapper, he's not anything more than a promoter. So I just want to be really clear.
It's the same way how mixtapes.
Bringing up DJ Khaled, and I'm like, don't bring up DJ Khaled. That's
and it's almost the same way mixtapes changed. In my day in the 90s, mixtapes was about breaking new music. Now mixtapes are albums. You know what I mean? Like, something is always shifting. Y'all made a great point about freestyling. I always say freestyling is off the top. Y'all made a point. Post 2000, you had a lot of MCs who would get deals based off their freestyles. So that meant I can't leave this up to chance that I'm gonna come off the top You know what I mean? And what if I fuck up and Jay's listening and I don't get a deal? So now I have to kick ratings. So it's like, again, it's just the progression of how words change. So I mean, I think it's a beautiful thing now that DJs can do it, but there was a time and space, even if it's just 3 to 5 years, where the average DJ could not do what a Clue did. You know, the average DJ couldn't do what a Funk Flex could do. You know, back in the day, it was, we got to get our song to Funk Flex. Like, Funk Flex had all the power in the world being on Hot 97. He was the gatekeeper almost to everything. So we got that. Now tell me, I want to talk a little bit about Turntablist. And I always tell the story, it's this time of the month again for me to piss off folk on Twitter when I say white folk are not guests in hip hop. And I always give this example because I was at 889. Somebody called up and was saying something about the scratch pickles. And I was like, yo, bro, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never heard of the invisible scratch pickles. Like, what is that? And I was like, yo, just come through my crib tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, and bang, bang, bang on the door. My man like, yo, it's like 3 white cats at the door. I'm like, word? Boom. Came in, chopped up, had all these VHS tapes. Spent the rest of the day schooling me on turntablism. Because at that point, I hadn't heard of it. I'm doing an underground hip hop show. I knew nothing about the scratch pickles. I heard about the X-Men, and these dudes schooled me on it. So that's just another reason why I'm never like this whole white people against in hip hop. I've never been with that shit. But let's talk about the turntablist, because I think, Force, to your point, what I think the DJ did that was so dope would say, okay, we're not needed here. Well, you know what? Let's start our own world over here. Let's start our own lane. Let's start our own brand over here. And so much of that goes to the executioners. Mr. Sinister, Rob Swift, Rock Raider, R.I.P., Total Eclipse, DJ Precision, DJ Boogie Blind, and the Invisible Scratch Pickles, Q-Bird, Shortcut, D-Styles, Mixmaster Mike, DJ Dis, DJ Flair, Yogi Frog, DJ Apollo, and DJ A-Track. Snips, Greg, talk to me about Turntablist, because I really don't know where this came from. Like I said, I'm just on the radio one day, somebody calls up and schools me to it. Are you guys familiar with how this came? Where did the executioners come from? Where did the Invisible Scratch Pickles come from? Where did this turntablism genre of hip hop come from?
Snips, you want me to start? You're still muted, brother. Still muted.
My bad. I think I actually think it ties into what we were just talking about, and I think that there was a feeling of abandonment from the culture, as in, you know, we're just not seen as that important. We're not seen as that important. We're not we're not needed by rappers anymore. So how can we turn our art form into something where we get to express ourselves? Because there's only so much you can express yourself by playing records in a club, right? Or playing records for a rapper. But I think turntablism was a way that DJs were able to be like, all right, I want to say something. If you watch Rock Raider, he's saying something, right? With what he's doing. He's actually trying to tell you something. He's telling a story with the records. And I think it came from that, and it just evolved into something that became like mind-blowing, right? Like, if you watch some of these guys, it's insane how good they are. But I think initially that's what it came from, just the want to be able to tell your story without having to rely on a rapper to be a part of it, you know?
Right. What you think, right?
I mean, I agree with Snips. It's, you know, that feeling of abandonment or being a black sheep, because you go from here to just nowhere, and it's like, okay, well, we can do something too, you know, coming out of people's garages and bedrooms. There's thousands of DJs who are in the turntablism that we most likely will never see or get to hear from. Just they're content with just being in their room and expressing themselves, and that's a whole nother show, honestly. Like, just based on the form of it, you know, so many things have come out of it. It's needed. It definitely pushed the culture of DJing, because if you don't have a little bit of that in your arsenal, it's not that you won't get taken seriously, but from certain DJs, you know, we're not gonna look at you funny, but we know where you at. It's just like the lyricists, if they still talking about, you know, the hipper to the hopper, and you got somebody like Yao, or, you know what I'm saying, Ev, or somebody coming in hitting you with syllabalistic flows, you know, you're gonna get looked at. The respect is not necessarily gonna be.
There's a base level you have to have.
Yes, so within scratching turntablism, it's a language, right? And there's a certain base of language that you need to know as a DJ. Me and Snips can sit here and talk about baby scratches, Transformers, if I said a crab scratch or crab style, like he knows exactly what I'm talking about. Y'all looking at us like we crazy, but he and I, we just talking, right? It is a language that you need to know, and it's an art form of it. And you have to have a base understanding of it before, this is my opinion, before you should be able to stand in front of a set of turntables and call yourself a DJ, because without that, you're going to be lost. Because somebody like myself or Snips is going to hop on the turntables and make you look real crazy. And that comes with practice and just being dedicated to the craft. And that's really what turntable is. And those guys, that to me, those guys are the epitome of determination and discipline.
All right. 2 words you said. One, I just forgot that quick. The other was abandonment.
Yeah.
And both you and Snip said that. And it made me think back to this Will Smith book where he was talking about him and Ready Rock C, who was their beatbox. You know what I'm saying? And basically how they had a huge falling out because basically beatboxing went out of style. You know what I mean? So on the first album, Ready Rock C is a huge part of the tour. He's a huge part of the show. He's a huge part of the album. By the second album, he's nowhere on the album. You know, he's on tour. People really aren't impressed by the beatboxing no more. And he said, yo, you know, one night, you know, we got off the tour and he just walked away and I walked away and we never spoke again. And he was like, this was my best friend. You know what I mean? So it's like that level of abandonment up in hip hop when something that you do gets phased out. What do you do? Like, you know, what is Will supposed to do for Ready Rock C? Like, bruh, I don't know. Nobody cares about this anymore. You know, when you look at Rozelle, he had that All I Know That Pete Rock did. You know what I mean? But not too many people really listened to that Rozelle album after that. And I think what really got it was that Pete Rock did the beat and Rozelle was rapping. He was also beatboxing, but that he was trying to like do something
incorporated
else.
Yeah,
incorporate
really well.
Because, you know, you basically, you know, did get abandoned and kind of like Breck, what you were saying, that there's like a bare minimum. You can't stand in front of the turntables and call yourself a DJ.
No.
That's what my second point was. And I'll come back to something else I want to talk about, but that I want to know what you guys feel about this. I'm sorry, Sims, what were you going to say?
Sorry, I was going to revert back to something that you said, which I found was interesting. I know you mentioned before about when people come at you on Twitter about white people being guests in hip hop and whatnot. And I think there's a reason that there's a disconnect with that conversation, because the era that we come from, right? To be accepted in hip hop, regardless of what race you were, the amount of work that you had to put into understanding your craft, you couldn't fake it, right? So I could never come into because, you know, I don't know how much you guys know about the UK, but the hip hop scene was a predominantly black UK scene, right? So any white DJ that was a part of it, the work that you had to do to be able to be taken seriously, it was a lot, right? You couldn't just come in and be a part of this stuff. Whereas I feel like now the doors are open for anybody, regardless of race, to just become a part of it, right? So I understand why people have this thing where they're like, oh, you know, look at, you know, people who aren't part of the culture just coming in as guests, because now the culture is so open that anybody can come in as a guest. But I feel like it's different from, and it's the same way that like people weren't saying that about Stretch Armstrong in the 90s. People weren't saying it about Alchemist. People weren't saying it about Third Base, because at that time you knew that people had to be good at what they did. And what it took to be good was incredible dedication. And like I said, it was a discipline, right?
Right.
It doesn't exist anymore. So I think that's where there's a disconnect where a lot of young kids will be like, oh, these are culture vultures. Because the culture has allowed anybody to be a culture vulture. You know,
and it's
you
funny,
don't need to. You know.
I think it's that, and then it's the piece of when rappers talk. You know what I mean? It used to be the old saying, E.F. Hutton, people, when he talks, people listen. When rappers talk, people listen. So I never heard anything about guessing hip hop until Lord Jamal made that statement. Then everybody jumped on that. I never heard culture vulture until Dame Dash made that statement. Then everybody jumped on that.
Yeah.
I came up in an era where I loved the Beastie Boys. I never once knew anybody in my crew who said, yo, these are dope for some white boys. No, we love the Beastie Boys. When Paul Revere came on and Hold It Now hit it, all that. When I heard Step Into the AM, nobody said, yo, these are some dope ass white boys. No, this is some dope ass. This is dope. You know what I mean? So I think it's that this could. I'm sorry, boy.
Sorry, but culture vultures do exist.
Oh no,
maybe not as prevalent, or maybe not as loosely as people, call everybody. But culture vultures absolutely do exist, and there
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So
I'm not saying
people aren't wrong by saying that. Dame Dash wasn't wrong by introducing that term. At least he termed it. And Lord Jamar maybe wasn't wrong in some aspects when he explains it. That it's just, I think, a different perspective. But
to me, they're two different things. Lord Jamar made a statement about all white people. I don't think you can make a statement about all of anybody. I can't sit here and tell you all women are this. I can't do that. That's what Lord Jamal did. Dame said, such and such may be a culture virtue. Right. That's cool. I'm not mad at that. I get mad at the statement of all anything. Being a black man, I hear from white folk all the time, all black men are hoods, are thugs. That, to me, that's the equivalent of Lord Jamal saying all white people are guests in hip hop. So to me,
Prodigy said the same thing to me. Remember, I shared that on Twitter.
And I disagree with Prodigy. Here's the cool thing about me. Y'all know me. I don't give a fuck what a rapper says. People tell me, "Oh, Kill, you're wrong." Big Daddy Kane said freestyle. I don't give a fuck what Kane said. I love Kane to death. That don't mean that nigga Jesus, rap Jesus.
I think what people struggle with is that there's a nuance to that conversation that doesn't get taken in. I don't disagree with Lord Jamal, by the way. I disagree with the absolutism in the way that statement has been taken, but I don't actually disagree with him. Where I think people struggle is, essentially we're talking about a culture that comes from the experience of Black and Hispanic people in New York City at a certain time in a certain place, right? So where I think people lose the nuance of the discussion is, all right, let's say, for example, who has more claim to hip hop? A 55-year-old white guy who grew up in the South Bronx, or a 19-year-old Ghanaian kid from Sweden? Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like, and this is where I think the discussion gets lost when people talk in absolute terms. I agree to a certain extent that what Jamal was saying, that as a white person, you're experiencing a culture that is essentially rooted in stuff that is foreign to you. And in order to be accepted into it, you need to have an understanding and a respect. 100%, I agree with that. I think the conversation has given people an easy, like somebody who discovered hip hop via Ja Rule on MTV, living in Sweden, suddenly has the authority to go on Twitter and say to a Stretch Armstrong or a Dante Ross, shut the fuck up, you're a culture vulture, you don't know what you're talking about. That's when it becomes, you're kind of losing what the conversation was about, I think I don't think anything can be progressive when we speak in absolute terms. Right. That's kind of my stance.
You had something to say, Rob?
Yeah. The absolute part of it is where he is wrong, and Prodigy's wrong as well. Prodigy's one of my favorite rappers. I just know coming up, like you mentioned the Beastie Boys, and I remember, man, it was a song that used to come on in Philly all the time on the radio, and I love the song, and I didn't know who did the song until I listened to Questlove's podcast thing, and it was MC Search. It was a song called Hey Boy, and I didn't know it was him, and it came on in Philly all the time, and I was like, and it was dope, and it's like, I don't like him saying it in absolutes, because it was people, white people in hip hop all the way from the beginning, like, just because, you know what I'm saying, that's not that I don't like the absolutism in which he spoke about it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutism in everything is wrong. I can't sit here and tell you everybody from Philly is a stick-up kid, or everybody
I agree with that, Kill.
That to me is where Jamal went wrong. And again, we're talking about Lord Jamal, who's a 5%. This is what I beg everyone. People watching right now, I beg of you, because this is what Twitter, social media, and life has been now. Stop being a fucking robot. Have a thought of your own. Just because if one more motherfucker tells me we'll kill this rapper, said, I don't give a fuck. I have a mind of my own. I don't care if Rakim said it. I don't care if KRS said it. I don't care if Kool Herc said it. I don't care if every goddamn rapper in the world who ever had a record deal said it. I don't give a fuck. This is what I think about it. And that's just the end of the story. And that's what I want people to do. If you want to do the research, research it. Like I told old girl, Boss Lady Rain, watch Star Wars. You talking about something you don't even know nothing about because you ain't never even seen it. Do
Never
the
seen
research first.
Yeah.
And then do that. So if you want to say that, and Porsche, I 100% agree with you. There are culture vultures, and guess what? It ain't all white folk. There are a lot of black culture vultures too. So I agree with it. That's the other flip of it. There's a lot of black people feeding off our culture who don't care nothing about hip hop. And all I care about is if you love my culture, we cool. If you don't love my culture, we not cool. White, black, Puerto Rican, I don't give a fuck what you are. It's that simple with me. And I tell folks, you get older.
Lord Jamar's statements in general are very, very heavy. Like they just carry a lot of.
This nigga's on Vlad TV, nigga. You damn near the feds. I don't even trust you at this point.
It's true.
Like, you're calling people guessing hip hop, and you're sitting there across from Vlad. Like,
right.
He knows what he's doing.
That's the craziest thing.
He's trolling.
He's not all wrong. He's not all wrong, but again, there's a lot of layers to what Lord Jamar is saying, and I think people just take the surface level of it and either agree or disagree with it without understanding the layers that he's talking about. Again, it's really heavy, like for this DJ show.
In reality, the answer to a lot of these questions is it's complicated. You know, I think.
And really, my answer to it is this: go out and get to know people. Do you know why you can't have a term that just talks about all people? Because you haven't got a chance to get out and know all people. That's all it is. Get out, get to know people, and you will see. Like I said, maybe it's different for me. My grandfather's wife was white. My mom's best friend was white. So I grew up around white folk who cared for me more than a lot of black folk cared. So again, my upbringing is different. Maybe there's somebody else who has a totally different upbringing. Totally get it. But all I'm saying is I'm never going to agree with anybody saying all of fill in the blank is this. So I'm never going to agree with that. So here's the thing that I was going to say, because Breck, you said it, before you can stand behind the turntable and call yourself a DJ, you have to have some basics. Here's what I want to know how you guys feel, because now everybody's a DJ. We have the celeb DJ. Solange is a DJ. Erykah Badu is a DJ. Q-Tip is a DJ. Talib Kweli is a DJ. Everybody's a DJ. Quest a DJ. You know, here's the thing, because, you know, Breck, you were talking about it with your mixer. $1,800 for a mixer. How much a Technique 1200s?
These days?
A car.
I mean, I know they stopped making them.
So I'll put it to you like this. Snips, I don't know about you, but I got my techs that's downstairs from a pawn shop in Fayetteville, North Carolina in '94. I got them both for $500.
Yeah.
Never got rid of them.
Yeah.
Same techs I've had since '94.
Yeah, once you get them, you're good. You never need to get rid of them.
Yeah. And the reason why I'm saying that is because what's happened now with technology is once you buy an iPhone, you automatically can put 5 things on your bio. You're now a photographer.
Yeah.
You're now a producer. You're now a video director. You're now a video editor, because you have all this software at your fingertips. And I always say, when people say, you know, Kill, what new producers do you like? And I'm like, it's not a lot. I think one of the reasons was because when you invested so much money into something, you were going to keep practicing at it. Like I said, an SP1200 when I was in college was almost $4,000. So if I get my hands on an SP1200, God damn it, I'm gonna learn how to use that shit. It's
interesting you say money, man.
What you say?
I was gonna say it's interesting you say money, because there's a debate around this, right? A lot of people say, well, you know, now everybody has access to do stuff, right? So whether it's production, whether it's DJing, you don't need to be a rich kid to do it. And I was trying to explain, like, none of the DJs I knew were rich kids. I wasn't rich. I never had money growing up. Nobody I knew. But the work that we had to put in to raise that money to be able
Right.
to buy those records. Like that was what separated you from fair weather fans who like the idea of DJing. No, it's like I'm gonna go without food to do this shit.
Right.
I've done some things that I am ashamed of to get records. That's all I'm gonna
But I
say.
mean-
That's why
but
Slick
I
is
mean-
laughing, because hey, bro, I've done some things that
But
But
I
that's
do
what I'm
so
saying.
wrong.
At the point of what we were doing to do this, there was no quit in us. See, so when you get an iPhone now, you like, and the reason why I was saying this is because I'm very cognizant to not disrespect the architects. Meaning, if you come to my house, there's pictures of Naomi up. People see them, they're like, oh, who took those pictures? Oh, Kill, you took them. Oh, you're a great photographer. I just take pictures. I'm not a photographer. You know what I mean? I can take good pictures. That's what I do. Because I don't want to disrespect the photographers who have put in the time and put in the efforts. I open my phone, I hit auto. I'm not adjusting no shutter speeds. I'm not doing none of that. I just take good pictures. So I make mixtapes. People like, yo, you're a good DJ. Nah, I just play around on I don't even know what is this called, mixtape. You know, I just play around on that. I make blends. I blend. I'm not a DJ.
That was our first conversation. That's how I linked up with you. I needed advice on something, and that was one of the first things you said to me. Oh, okay, you DJ. Look, first and foremost, I put music together. Like that was that. You made that very clear.
Like, and I think that that's something, because I feel that way as a producer. I feel like now everybody's a producer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if you get an iPhone, you got GarageBand. You buy an iPad, you got this. You know what? Let me try my hands at it. Plus, I got YouTube now. Again, with DJs and producers, they went hand in hand because of these things behind them. You could not be a producer. I see your work, brother.
Mine are downstairs. I'm in the kitchen. Mine are downstairs.
You could not do it because you would get an SP1200, which was $3,500. Then you had to buy a turntable. Then you had to buy speakers and an amp and all of that. And now you done spent $5,000 and you're ready to go. But guess what? You don't have records.
And this is a thing, Kill, man. The time. This is what people don't understand, right? And when it comes to production and DJing, something's very similar, right? You want to be whatever you want to do. You want to compete with the people that are the best at doing it, right? So you're a producer. You want to compete with Pete Rock. You want to compete with Premier. You want to compete with Alchemist. You have to build your sample library.
Yeah.
You have to know those records. You have at least 1,000 records until you know the breaks, until you know what drum breaks you're trying to find. And it's the same with DJing. It's like, right, I started DJing in 95, 96. So I was buying hip hop and R&B records and reggae records as they were coming out. But then I'm starting to get booked for clubs and I'm playing with people, and those people are playing the records from the 70s and 80s that I don't have yet.
Yep.
So I have to go out and find those records. And there's no Discogs, there's no eBay. I'm having to go and dig in record stores and learn these records and find these records. And only now that I've built up a collection of 600, 700, 800 records where I've got the classics and I've got the house records that I need, and I've got the reggae records, and I've got these classic records that I need to be able to compete with the best people doing it. Only then can I really be taken seriously in my craft. And we're talking, that's a 3 or 4 year time period of really cutting my teeth and learning how to do this. These kids are buying Fruity Loops, they're looping something, and then a week later, they're a producer and they've put something on SoundCloud, or they've bought Serato. I've DJ'd with people that don't even know how to set up their Serato in a club yet. It's like, you just got this shit a month ago. You have no business doing this professionally yet. But we're in this fast culture of like, oh, no, like you said, I bought an iPhone, I'm a photographer now. Now I'm a producer. Now it's like like this record collection that took so many years of my life and blood, sweat, and tears and all the rest of it. Like, this can be downloaded in a couple of hours. Now,
right.
You know, it's and there's a blessing to that. The blessing is, if you do care and you've put that work in, I have my collection on a hard drive. So if I get booked to go and DJ in Germany, or I'm in Sweden, I just have to take my laptop. I don't have to worry about potentially losing 3 crates of records on a plane and paying extra shipping. You know, if something like new music that comes out that doesn't get released on vinyl, I can have the MP3 and I can still be able to play it. So there is a blessing to it. But with that blessing comes a curse, man, where just anybody can do it. It's like the YouTube sampling, man. There may be records that you could never ever find, and now somebody can send you a WAV, or and you can sample it. That's a blessing for you, and you've put the work in where you deserve to be able to cut those corners, right? But the person who just bought Fruity Loops yesterday and can now access your entire collection on YouTube, they don't deserve that yet. They ain't put their hours in, you know?
Right. And it's crazy because you think about it, it put radio stations out of business. Like Strictly Hip Hop, what I hosted for years, people tuned in every Friday because they knew we can hear the new shit. Kill is gonna play the new shit.
Yeah.
Now it would be, yo, Kill, yo, I want to hear such. Oh, I ain't even got that yet. Oh, yo, what's your email? Just I'll send it to you. Like now, now you got the listeners sending you the music. Like, oh, you ain't got that yet? Okay, here you go, OG. So it again, like you said, it's a blessing. But then at the same token, we didn't have who sampled.
But you know what's crazy, Kill? You know, and I know that Rec will attest to this as well. With all of this at our fingertips, right? All of this access that we have, like me and Rec could go and DJ a party tomorrow. We have access to any record we want, right? To be able to play it. And never has there been a time where DJs are so lazy and they're playing from the same bag of 30 records. Nobody's taking chances. Nobody's trying to dig out their comfort zone. And it's like, hold on, we were trying to dig out our comfort zone where we were actually going and hunting for records. Now you have everything at your fingertips. And you're playing the same 10 Drake and Cardi B records all night. Yep. Like the lack of creativity in this right now is just...
I have a theory on that one.
What's your theory?
So think about it like this, right? Snips and I, we play out in clubs and, you know, corporate events or whatever, right? The promoters, they want you to come in and do a specific thing. And they have the power in a sense, because if you don't bring them what supposedly the people want, then you don't get booked. And those 30 records or whatever, you know, are what we consider power hour records, right? If you don't play those power hour records, or you haven't built your name to where, like, you know, you're a Jazzy Jeff or a Rich Medina, to where people are coming to hear you play whatever you play, chances are sometimes you don't get booked. So I think the new DJ hasn't cut their teeth. They haven't broken records. They don't know what it is to break records. They don't know how to break records. Artists don't know how to come to the booth and break a record. Artists will come to you and be like, yo, OG, play my song. I can't do shit with this in the booth. Now I can, but I'm not. I don't know what's on your phone. I'm not gonna hook your phone up to $3,000 worth of equipment.
But isn't this crazy? Is, you know how you can really tell the pedigree of these DJs? Put them on in a warm-up set. Yeah. And you know what they do? They still play the same 30 hour records to a half-empty club. That's how you know that they haven't cut their teeth.
So basically what you're saying is Porsche would not be successful as a DJ because she would have to play Drake all the time.
Yes.
In 2021, 2022,
I'll hang it up.
If you ain't got no Drake in your
Grandpa
set,
Simpson gif. Walking in, walking right out. That's me. The Grandpa Simpson gif is me.
I have a folder in my Serato called Get Out of Jail. And that's basically where I have like my Drake records, my Cardi records, and I go to every gig with the intention of not touching that folder because I don't want to play them. But if I get to the point where it's 1 a.m. and Megan from accounts is screaming in my ear that she wants to hear Drake,
I like that. Get out of jail. Get out of jail. Get out of jail.
You gotta have it, because it's like he said, we have all this access, but we've handcuffed ourselves because the younger generation of DJs are scared to break shit. So what happens is you get pigeonholed by the people who hold your check at the end of the night. And if you're not a ballsy DJ, or like Kill, you always say, I don't give a fuck. If you're not one of them I don't give a fuck DJs, we have those crates for a reason. That way we can pull 1 or 2 songs out and be like, all right, maybe they won't come back. Let me go to something else. Okay, next thing you know, Megan from accounts is coming back.
But I think it goes back to what Snips was saying about Rich and Bobbito just not giving a fuck, and them being able to stand and say, I'm still gonna break records and still do those things. So tell me, how do y'all feel about Serato? Like, I know Snips, you touched on it. Like, it does make it easier for you guys, because I've heard from a lot of DJs like, yo, back in the day, Diamond D was Jazzy J's record boy. Like, you're bringing crates and crates and crates of heavy records to every jam. So I'm sure Serato helps you guys, but
Amazing.
if you could ask, right, because let me ask this first before I assume this. Do you feel as though the DJ, the DJ, I guess, genre has been watered down by the celebrity DJs? Okay, and I'm 100%. Assuming that's because of Serato. Yeah. If you could right now say, you know what, no more Serato, would you do that if you had a wish?
100%. I would take the inconvenience of not having Serato to bring back a world where you had to be of a certain caliber to be able to DJ in clubs. Because if we remove Serato right now, I look at the New York club scene, right, and I'm like, there is a million unqualified DJs running these clubs. If we removed Serato, who would we be left with? We'd be left with Rich. We'd be left with Bobito. We'd be left with Stretch. Kid Capri would be able to bring his records out. You know, we'd be left with. So yeah, I would take that all day. I would take, if we could go back to that, I'd take it all day.
What about you, Rap?
Oh, no question. It cuts out the bullshit. Like you see the memes where like you see a Technique 1200 and it'll say everybody's a DJ until you put one of these in front of them. That's a true fucking statement. Yeah. Because a lot of people have never touched a turntable. It's a different thing to DJ on a turntable than it is a controller. Totally different thing. And you pull out some vinyl in front of somebody, they're gonna look at you like, hold up. First and foremost, what's that?
Do you know what though? I'm seeing in the soulful house and the disco scene.
Oh, it's coming back.
It's coming back with that. Back. And to be honest, I prefer to play in those parties right now.
Oh,
because I feel like there's a level of respect for the culture of DJing and the culture of vinyl. And to be honest, even a lot of the music right now, I feel like a lot of the soulful house music is actually more soulful than a lot of what's coming out and being considered R&B.
Oh, of course.
You know, like you're listening to soulful house and you can hear these singers grew up in the church.
All day.
You know, I'm listening to soulful R&B and I'm hearing the same whispery,
There is no soulful
R&B. Ain't nobody going to church no more. Don't nobody go to church no more. Big Mama don't drag nobody to church no more.
Exactly.
Where do you see DJs going from here? Like, you know, we now are at a place where DJs can monetize. You know, D-Nice is one of the biggest DJs in the world. You know what I mean? Where do you see DJs going from here? Do you think it's going to ever go back to, you know, a new MC comes out and he's going to have a DJ? Do you think it's going to stay right here? What do you see in the future for DJs?
You asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I think with technology, especially with social media, I think that it's not. Yeah, I think they'll be able to monetize off of it, much like things like Club Quarantine and whatever. But I think the blueprint for that is DJ Scratch, to be honest. Scratch Vision is a self-sustaining platform that DJ Scratch created, and then he monetizes off of that himself through, you know, that kind of platform, like that it's an app, it's a site, it's all of that. So I think that for DJs to be able to monetize off of their craft, like people like Large Pro, who does this, Knots, you know, he does, well, Knots not really, I guess he's more of like he's not really scratching, but you know, just Large Pro, let's say, and DJ Jazzy Jeff, who still is on Instagram, for example, they would need to kind of use, in my opinion, sort of like a DJ Scratch platform, so that they're not being booked and then depending on somebody else to monetize, but that then they're able to self-sustain money. I think that's the only way that DJs will be able to, because there are people who need DJs still and who like to listen to DJ Scratch. Like, I love listening to DJ Scratch. When DJ Premier one night was up until, I think it was like 5:30 in the morning New York time, I was up until 2:30 listening to DJ Premier just go ham on his turntables. Like, it was crazy. And I think for people like them to be able to monetize off of people like me is to get their own platforms and be able to charge a monthly or whatever. I don't know how DJ Scratch does it or did it, but
I was just about to ask, do you pay a membership? Like, how do they monetize? Is it ads?
So I think it's ads. I think it's a lot of different things. And DJ Scratch's platform is very sort of like, he's got like a lot of visuals. He's got a lot of things going on that really makes it like he really makes the digital world sort of mesh well with the real world, like as if you're there, as if there's like a crowd in front of him. Whole time he's by himself, like God knows where he is. It's all a backdrop and he's created it. But yeah, that's how I think DJs would monetize moving forward from 2021, because technology is just going to get more sophisticated and people are just going to be more attached to their digital devices. So I think that for DJs to bring that craft back, because there's obviously a following for it, they would need to do that. That would be my advice.
All right, bro, what about you? Where do you see the art of DJ going into the future?
I could see it expanding. I could, with technology and like just the weight of the world. I mean, the pandemic, the DJs was killing the MCs and everybody else. I mean, the DJs is what was keeping us afloat during those times. I know a lot of us, what I'm saying? I know me, I mean, they found a way, and I think the DJs will continue to find a way to continue to be relevant and important in the culture. And as technology advances and stuff like that, I think it'll be the DJs will just find more ways to advance, because like we were saying in the early 90s, it looked like they were like getting wiped out. Now they're back. You know what I'm saying? They'll find a way. Like I always say, dope is dope, and dope is always gonna find a way to be dope. So that's how I see it.
All right. What about you, Snips?
I agree with both of you guys, actually. I think the one concern I have is that while I think the technology's there, and while I think there is a small audience of people that really care about the culture of DJing, I think based upon what we've seen over the past few years, it's the younger kids who aren't as invested in the actual culture of it. These are the kids who are pushing forward with understanding how to use the technology, right? So I think a lot of the time, the rest of us get swallowed up in the noise. So you're always going to have a scratch or a D-Nice that's able to break through and do something successful. But for every person who's able to do that, I think you're going to have 10 young influencer DJs who are just doing siren sounds and playing the latest trap records on Twitch and have way more followers, because essentially people just want to hear music that they like, right? I think unfortunately we're in the minority of people that actually want to see somebody really practice their craft and their art. I hope I'm wrong. Maybe I'm being cynical. But I do think the one thing that I do think is giving me some hope is that the backbone to all of this shit is vinyl, right? The backbone to really DJing, to production is vinyl. And we're seeing an increase in hip hop with younger kids giving a shit about records. Even if you look at the underground guys that are coming out, the Griseldas, the Rome Streets, all of these guys, they won't put a project out without accompanying it with a vinyl. And if you look at what these records are going for, there's a genuine world of people that give a shit. And I think the more we start to see vinyl being sold as a normality, the more we're going to see an interest in the craft of production and the craft of DJing. And even with older stuff, man, I work in a record store here in Brooklyn, and I'm selling golden era hip hop records to 19-year-old kids, so we are seeing an investment from this next generation in the culture. I think we just need to be realistic about it and not assume it is ever going to be the dominant form of culture within hip hop as it was in the 90s. We are now, like, the shit that we love, it's niche. It's not going to be dominant. Every now and then there'll be a Kendrick, or there'll be there'll be somebody who breaks through into the mainstream that kind of represents what we love. But essentially, it's like if you look at jazz, right? If you look at jazz in the 60s and then you look at jazz in the 80s, jazz in the 60s was a dominant form of American music, right? Jazz in the 80s, these greats were releasing random records on Swedish record labels, or, like some weird Polish collaboration that was on an indie label, but it still existed and the culture was still there. But by that point, it was never going to be mainstream music again. And I think we have to look at hip hop in the same way. And it's not a bad thing. If anything, it's a great thing that it's able to still like flourish culturally and you know, creatively, even if it's not going to be dominant in the way that it was. So I think we need to kind of accept DJing as a craft and as an art form is going to be a part of that.
Right. DJ Raekwon, what do you think? What do you see DJs in the future?
I think it's going to be, you know, bigger, but the issue that I have is the technology. I don't want the technology to take it so far away from the craftsmanship of it that it gets lost. You know what I mean? Like, technology can either hinder you or it can either, you know, make you better at what you do. And I'd rather it, you know, make it to where people understand, okay, I have all this great technology, but let me start from the ground up so you can know how to use that technology. You know, I'm seeing a lot of new DJ schools. That's one thing we didn't really touch on. But I think that is a good thing. It's bringing the culture to the forefront, to where people are understanding that they can go somewhere and learn how to DJ, which is something that, you know, a lot of us didn't have. We were fortunate to have mentors, but a lot of DJs don't have that. And now with these, you know, schools, you know, the Beat Junkies do one. I know Rob Swift has one. You know, there's a bunch of different DJ schools that are reputable from these solid, you know, pillars of the foundation of it. So I'm hoping that the technology and the future just don't hinder it. We're in a good place, but it's still got some work to do.
No doubt. I think for me, I'm kind of like Snips, more cynical, because I think what I've had to learn to do is I'm not the average person. You know what I mean? And I don't think the average person cares about DJs. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when people say things like, you know, I'm blessed that the people I have in my circle are all dope dads. You know, so it's easy for me to say, like, what are you talking about? There are good dads out here, but then y'all forget I work in the hood where half of my kids can't do their family tree because they have no idea who their dad is. So the people that I keep in my circle, like you guys, we care about DJs. I don't think the rest of these motherfuckers out here give a shit about a DJ, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Because Questlove could technically be one of the biggest DJs out here, and it may be 200 to 300 people in his party. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's kind of like, it seems like DJs are doing great, but I'm almost back to Paris Smith. Not that I haven't seen a DJ living comfortably, you know what I mean? But the average DJ, like, I'll Snips, who do you think is the biggest DJ right now? Is it D-Nice? Is it
might be D-Nice? Might be D-Nice, yeah.
And I don't give a fuck about a D-Nice. You know, that's no diss to D-Nice, but I don't want to go to a D-Nice party. I'd rather go to a Jazzy Jeff party. I'd rather go to a Snips party. I'm gonna be honest.
So my thing is this. I was at the D-Nice party in Prospect Park a few months ago. I really appreciate what D-Nice has done, but D-Nice is part of the Originals fam, right? And the Originals throw big parties in New York. So that's D-Nice.
The Originals, what's that?
D-Nice, Tony Touch, Stretch Armstrong, Rich Medina, and Clark Kent.
Okay.
So them as a 5-piece unit throw regular parties in New York, and the parties are crazy. But I'm going to be honest, and I don't mean this in any disrespectful way to D-Nice. I think D-Nice is great, and I think D-Nice would probably agree with this statement. But D-Nice is the 5th best DJ out of that 5.
It's so funny.
Right?
I was just about to ask, but I didn't want to because I didn't want to, you know, but I was going to say, I would assume he's the...
And I don't think, I'm not saying that as a disrespect as well. I think D-Nice would probably agree with that. And only because of the fact D-Nice became a DJ later on in life, right? We're talking about Stretch, Clark Kent, Rich, Tony. These guys have been DJs since the 80s, you know? Right. And they are some of the best DJs in the world. So I think for D-Nice to be a part of that crew, even though essentially I'm sure, you know, his newfound fame will do great things for them as a unit, which is great for the rest of the guys in the crew as well. Not to say they need it. I mean, they're all very reputable in their own right. But I think while D-Nice can do great things for them with his newfound fame, I think D-Nice is also very aware that he is it does great things for him to be associated with some of the world's best hip hop DJs, you know? And yeah, I mean, I say that to say that the Originals parties, best parties in New York, like incredible.
Right. And I mean, I think the D Nice thing, because of COVID, because of club quarantine, everybody knew D Nice's name. If we go back pre-COVID, the average person didn't know D Nice. I don't know if Michelle Obama is talking about D Nice.
And what did D Nice do, actually? He just played songs, right?
I think the hype came from the fact that Michelle Obama went into his room.
Right, but
And
I'm just trying to say,
so many people.
I always, every now and then I tweet out, I'm like, I hope everyone who was outside during quarantine and on, outside during quarantine, like lockdown, but on IG, clarifies that D Nice wasn't the first person to do this, because he only got on and started playing music, just as if you stick a aux cord in somebody's iTunes, and I don't want to take away from D Nice's abilities, but let's be honest.
I think the problem is it goes back to who invented the Transformer scratch. See, so we're talking about D Nice didn't invent it, you know what I mean? And saying like Michelle Obama went in the room. So it's the same thing. I've heard people say, of course, she was in the whole thing with who invented the Transformer scratch. Was it Jeff? Was it Cash? Then somebody else? Somebody told me Steady B's first DJ Grand Wizard DST is the one who made the scratch. And then somebody sent me a YouTube clip. Oh, who? What'd you say?
Wasn't the whole thing about Grand Wizard Theodore?
Oh, no, it wasn't Theodore. It was
Theodore invented the scratch, but not the...
Yeah, he invented the scratch, but not the transformer.
Okay, because when I was involved in that whole back and forth, it was, Kill, tell Portia it was Theodore. And I was like, bro, I'm not even going to give you the time of day because we're not talking about the same thing.
But I mean, I think that's what we're getting at, that D Nice wasn't the first to do it, but he was the one who found fame from it. So you have a lot of Philly DJs who are saying Jeff didn't invent the Transformer scratch, but he was the first to do it on wax, which is why everybody knows Jazzy Jeff for the Transformer.
I think if we're being real, man, I mean, like I said, if we're comparing D Nice as a DJ to the rest of the Originals crew, I would say he's not the strongest DJ up against a Stretch or a Clark Kent. But then, man, like considering who could have been the biggest celebrity DJ throughout club quarantine, I'm glad we got D Nice, because it could have been Paris Hilton. It could have been, it could have been like, I'm glad we got somebody who is from the culture, loves the culture, plays great music, is a great personality, is and genuinely I mean, to be honest, man, I am more than happy that D Nice was the guy that happened for. I'm not saying Easy Mo B was doing it before a lot of people, Ninth was doing it early, Large Pro was doing it early, Kid Capri was doing it early. Like, I get it, and I'm not saying D Nice is a better DJ than all of those guys, but I think for what was needed and the character that we needed to be that person, I'm more than happy that it's D Nice.
Yeah. And I mean, I have no beef with D, but like you said, Porsche, it's just, was he the first doing it? Nah, not at all. No. You know what I mean? It's just, he was the first. So again, it's the same thing with Jeff. So if Jeff didn't invent the Transformer scratch, do I think any less of Jeff as a DJ? Hell no, because he's still dope. It's not like D Nice is whack. If D Nice was whack, then it'd be like, fuck, we got this whack dude up here,
Right.
That's what I'm saying. It could have been so much. It could have been so bad. If you think about who could have been the celebrity DJ throughout.
It could have been me. It could have been me. But I listen to dope music. But I'm just saying, it could have been.
It could have been anyone. So, it literally could have been anyone,
Right. But I do think once Michelle Obama did that, she did the same thing for Shake Shack here in DC. Like, Shake Shack had just opened up, and even T came to me like, hey, it's in the paper, Michelle Obama went to this new spot, we gotta go try it out. Now, without Michelle Obama going to Shake Shack, I don't know if Shake Shack is Shake Shack, but you have to have that cosign. And it's just, I don't see Michelle Obama like creeping around in Easy Mo B's DMs, or checking out Easy Mo B, his so it'd be dope.
We know what the catalyst was that allowed D to become who he became, and that doesn't mean that. For me, I guess it's just like, all right, we know what propelled him to that stardom. and had those other opportunities been given to other DJs, it may have propelled them as well. But I'm definitely, I'm not mad at D. If it was Jazzy Jeff, that would have been amazing too. But I think D Nice is a great. I think he was a great person to play that role throughout quarantine, and I say this somewhat biased. Stretch is a really good friend of mine, so I always support that entire crew as the originals, and I want to see them do well. So maybe I'm slightly biased, but for me, D doing that, like, amazing. I think, and I hope he just continues to get, bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and I think the thing too with D Nice, like, and Porsche, you know better than me because I don't really go into a lot of IG rooms with the DJs and everything. When I do see Large playing, he's playing a lot of breaks. You know what I'm saying? Or when I do see, a lot of the DJs that we're naming, they play breaks. Which
Moby's playing house for the most part.
Straight house too.
And so for a lot of times that music isn't going to grab people the way if D Nice is playing, Mama Used to Say, and certain songs like that. So it's also the song selection of who you're playing to. So if Michelle Obama is in the break beats, then she probably would love Large.
I'm just saying that, like, the ones who stick to the actual craft of being a DJ, like, you can actually tell who has perfected their craft, who is passionate about their craft, and who actually takes that seriously as an element of hip hop. Because we know Large Pro is also, he raps, so I think Large Pro is somebody who I think encapsulates sort of all the elements of hip hop. Pete Rock, same thing. Their DJ Premier, he doesn't rap, but like D Nice for me was just sort of, I don't know. I kept telling people, I'm like, yeah, D Nice is dope and he's playing dope stuff, but he's just playing whatever, like, somebody at a club could do this. And like Snip said, like, it could have been anybody.
I don't know if D Nice, I think D Nice is a good DJ. I think D Nice, and I think D Nice, is the culture too. He was an MC, he was a producer, so again, I don't look at D Nice like, yo, this nigga ain't even hip hop. Like, nah, D Nice is 100%.
I'm not saying he's not hip hop. I'm just saying when you listen to D Nice on, like, IG Live, he's not doing what DJ Scratch, Large Pro.
Now, you know what? That's a great segue. That's a great segue to this question for Snips and DJ Refuge.
Yeah.
I don't watch. I stay away from titles and topics I'm ignorant about because I may have watched a little bit of Club Quarantine. I never watched the whole thing, so I really don't know about D Nice. There are people who, because my young boy was like, well, Kill, like you said, you're not a photographer, you take pictures. What do you call these new DJs? And I call them playlisters. Because I feel like all you're doing is, like what Poor said, you're taking your phone, you've got your playlist, here's the aux cord, here we go. And what I mean by that is I'm seeing DJs who, to me, are reminiscent of a Clue. There's no blending, there's no scratching. It's literally
even if there is, it's assisted by the sync button.
Right. Yep. You're pressing the button and it makes an explosion and that's your blend over. So like Snips, one of the joints I was saying I love about you when you add Turntable Lab, it's the blends, it's the bounce, it's all of that. How do you all feel about DJs who they don't scratch, they don't blend, they literally are just what I like to call playlisters? What do you guys
I would tell you,
about that?
I think they will be replaced by Spotify playlists. I think, and this is my theory, I think we're going to get to a place, right, where people go into a club and you scan your phone, and your phone, there'll be an app that takes a scan of every single person's phone, and it will cross-section their Spotify playlists and come up with the 50 most played records combined of everybody's playlists. And there will be an app that just puts those records together, plays that continuously through the night, and that's how people are going to go out and experience music. And I think there will always be a need, and again, like I said, it'll be a small niche.
Now, do you want me to cut this out, Snips? Because this sounds like an app that you may want to make. So do you want me to edit this part out in the show so nobody
No.
Like,
word.
Because I'm like, this sounds like a good idea.
It's an app already in play like that.
Yeah, I would imagine it's already being made, to be honest. But I think honestly that's going to be, and I don't worry about it because I feel like there will be a small niche of people that care about going to see a DJ actually play. But I feel like for like the average bar gig where people are just playing the same, top records, I think that's, you got there's an end point to your career. If that's what you're doing, you are going to be replaced by technology.
Yep.
Okay. What about you, Rec, on the playlist? And here's the thing. Let me ask this question because again, I never watched Club Quarantine. Is D Nice a playlister? Is D Nice blending songs together? Is D Nice?
No, he's blending.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
he's blending.
No, he's blending songs. Like he may not give as much energy as a scratch based on what he is capable of doing, but he is DJing.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is DJing. He may not leave the turntable sweating, a la DJ Scratch or Jazzy Jeff.
Yeah,
they scratch.
Right.
They working. But D Nice is working too. It's different levels to each DJ.
But
DJs,
also, bear in mind that when you see a Scratch play, how long is Scratch playing for, or how long is Jeff playing for? A couple hours. D Nice is doing a 10-hour set.
10 hours.
You
he's doing all day sets.
Can't do that.
No,
consistently for 10 hours.
Your hands are numb. You got a headache. It's not gonna happen.
I'm sorry, I have to say,
10-hour set.
Yes.
DJ Premier went like 4 hours without stopping.
But I mean,
4 hours you can do.
Two different
I mean, that's
things. I'm just shocked that people listen for 10 hours. I'm like, yo, that's longer than the workday.
He's went 10 hours. He went 24 hours one time. Like D Nice.
He put the work in,
man. DJ for 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yo, I'm old, man. I'm give me a 2-hour D. I saw Pete Rock versus Premier at the Howard. 2.5 hours. I was ready to go home. Who is staying? Who is? I mean, well, I forgot it's Club Quarantine, so 24 hours.
Yo, if DJ Premier and Pete Rock were performing, I would not leave. I would be like, continue after 2 hours. That's it. Oh man.
I mean, because it was at a club. Pete and Premier were doing this Pete versus Premier tour.
Pete versus
you know what I mean?
Yep.
So they weren't gonna, but play for so long. You can't stand up, but for so long with those.
Right. But no, to answer your question.
How do you feel about playlists?
Snip said it.
Nothing positive.
I ain't got nothing for him. I don't got nothing for him because my 10-year-old daughter could do the same exact thing.
Yeah,
just making the playlist and just plugging and go. And I've sat here for days, months. If I got a gig coming up, a big gig, and I'm putting stuff together in my head or grabbing new music or grabbing stuff I'm trying to. I don't think nothing about them because it's that in a sense. We were talking about culture vultures earlier. That's a culture vulture.
Yeah,
that's a culture vulture because you're monetizing an opportunity based in hip hop. You have no sheer love for the culture. You see a bag, you're gonna get it, and if the next bag come from you kicking rocks, you're gonna be the best motherfucking rock kicker because you don't give a shit about what you're doing.
Yeah, I feel you, and I think my thing has just always been, you could learn. I mean, that's always
if you don't need to.
Yeah, right. But that's what I mean by
exactly.
It comes back down to the love, in that if you love the culture, then you're gonna want to get better. I hate to bring up that nut ass Ben Simmons, but if you love playing basketball, then you would want to get better. Like it's
this is always the thing, man. It's like
love. Like
how do you fall in love when you don't need to put like for us? I feel like we fell in love with doing this, but you develop that love. It's like a relationship, right? You fall in love with a person, but that love becomes stronger when you work at that relationship and you make it. And I think for us, as we fell in love with this culture and we put so much work in, that's what solidified the love. So if you like the idea of something, you don't get the time to really put the work in and fall in love with it because you don't need to.
That is true. And it goes back to funny. I always tell people, I go back to this picture. 10-year-old Kill, all he wanted to do was be a dope DJ. He didn't get these turntables like, okay, I'm gonna charge X amount of money for parties, and then I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna DJ for these people, and I'm gonna make money.
Do you think I ever thought I'd make money from this?
Right.
Never.
Like it was just literally a thing of love. And it goes back to a big lyric. Either you slinging white rock or you got a wicked jump shot. That was the philosophy in '95, whereas now we can add hip hop to that. we can say hip hop is now a way of something to do. So you have a whole bunch of people who really don't love the culture, but because they said a rhyme to their cousin, and it's like, oh, you should be an MC. Okay, let me get on SoundCloud, and let me get on Bandcamp, and let me. So again, you have all these people. I think it's the same with the NBA. I think a lot of the NBA are just tall people who don't really care about basketball. They want to get paid. They want to get rich. I'm dead ass. People say all the time, Kill, if a 6'2" 8th grader came into your teen center tomorrow, what are you gonna think? You play ball. And this 6'2" 8th grader could be like, nah, I just like singing on the choir. But do you think his family in the hood are gonna just let him sing on the choir? No, they're gonna be like, you're gonna play basketball, you're gonna get us out the hood, you're gonna be rich. And now this kid is in the NBA and he doesn't love the game. So he doesn't work on his game. So he stays with the same game that he's always had. So Snips, great point. If you're already being booked, why would I get better? Because I really don't even love this shit in the first place. I just do it.
But this is where I agree. This is where I agree with something that Portia said earlier about culture vultures. This is where the real culture vultures come into play, where there's people out there that know that they can go and take up every young kid they see from the hood and give him a record deal, and it's going to get lapped up by middle America, and they don't give a fuck. And that's where the real culture vultures are coming in. Those people that are like, yes, sign everyone, put it all out, nobody gives a fuck, it will sell. And I believe that's who Dame Dash was talking about. You know, that's where I think we have a real problem is right now. This hip hop industry is a money printing machine. You know, and the people that are really there, signing anybody, knowing that they can sell lowest common denominator music to a large amount of people, without a care in the world for the actual culture itself. That's where the root of the problem is.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Well, let me say, you two guys, I appreciate you. When Porsche came up with the idea of the DJ show, we already had Rec. I said I gotta get Snips on here because to me that's we can't do an MC show without an MC, can't do a producer show without a producer. You two are two of the dopest DJs that I know personally and just dope in general anyway. DJ Rec One, let them know where can they hear you at, what stations are you at, what's going on with you.
So it's Thanksgiving weekend, man. I got Thanksgiving mixes out the ass right now. I'm DJing Dallas Fort Worth Saturday. I think it's FM 94.5. Show comes on Saturday at 8. I have an internet show that I'm on, Texas Fleet Radio. I'm there Fridays at 8. New station in Nashville, Tennessee Radio. I'm doing a 2-hour set for them Sunday. I don't have the times yet, so I'm gonna say just stay tuned Sunday if you can get on, or just hit me on Twitter or at Instagram. And I got some other stuff coming. Best way to get at me is Instagram is at DJRec1NE, and Twitter is at DJRec1.
All right. Snips, let them know about everything, the beats, where can I get at you for beats, mixes, everything that you're doing, man.
The best thing to do is hit my website up, snipsmusic.net. I have links to my SoundCloud. I have links to all my mixes on Mixcloud. I have my Spotify links on there. I have my Bandcamp links on there. But search Snips on iTunes or Spotify if you want to hear anything I produced. I put out a load of instrumental music. DJ-wise, if you're in New York City this weekend, I am at I'm at Friends and Lovers Friday. Saturday, I'm at Sweet in Brooklyn. And then Sunday, I'm doing the Everyday People party at Harbor in Manhattan. So yeah, if you're in town, let me know. But all the info and all the gigs coming up is on my Instagram, which is Snips Music. Follow me on Twitter, Snips Tweets, and yeah, just plug in.
All right, no doubt. Bro, let them know everything, good brother. Where can they get the gear? Where can they look at? Where can they get at you, good brother?
Uptown J-Ben on the gram, J-Ben215 on Twitter, Fairgrade, PHAREGRADE on Instagram for the clothing line. That's it.
All right, Porsche. Loves Pete Rock, loves Troy, hates Drake. Where can they get at you?
on Twitter at Seriously Love Porsche, and I am only ever on Apartment 5B. I have to say that, and we're only ever on Twitter Spaces on Mondays at 6:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now that the clocks went back, we're back to Standard Time. So yes, we will have Twitter Spaces on Monday nights. And yeah, Apartment 5B. That's it.
All right. Gotta give you a salute, sis. We had a very dope Twitter space this past Thursday just about health and wellness. My man Boston, who I went to Morgan with, beat stage 4 cancer, lymphoma. We had Grap Lover, Pete Rock's little brother, on his battles with scoliosis. I spoke on my battle with fibromyalgia, scoliosis, hypothyroidism, sleep apnea, and everything else under the sun that I got. So just want to salute you for that, Porsche. Because I always tell folk every day, we can discuss hip hop, we can diss Ben Simmons all we want, but if we're not healthy, we can't do that. We got to take care of our health as men, women in general. It's not a black or white thing. It's just as men, we have to go get checked out. We have to make sure that we're good, to keep enjoying this life of loving and listening to hip hop. I've seen way too many people die way too early because of health issues that prayerfully may have been able to get prevented. So just want to shout you out for that. And you already know what it is with me, Kill 889. We've got the first 48 with King James, that's out. We've got Echo is the Name, season 7, that's out. Just got another track with Amir on Pete Rock's label, True Soul Records. So, a lot of dope stuff coming in the year. So just want to appreciate all y'all. Again, salute to all the DJs out there. There's so many. Just a real quick run around, like Greg, any DJs, Jazzy Joyce, just I'm thinking names. I just want to Polo, Eric B. I know I said y'all wasn't the dopest DJs, but I still got to salute y'all. There's no knock against Jazzy Jeff. You know what I mean? Next to Jeff, not a lot of people are that dope. So Jam Master J, R.I.P., the first DJ who, made me fall in love with the craft. Just so many DJs out there.
We gotta salute the one. Cool Herc.
Herc, Grandmaster Flash. How am I ending this show without Grandmaster Flash? Seeing Grandmaster Flash in Wild Style made me want me to put my turntables in the kitchen, and my mom would not let me. And she was like, "No."
Okay, I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna take this and just big up some UK people.
Please do.
Shorty Blitz, Mr. Thing, MK, DJ 279, Big Ted, Sarah Love, DJ Pogo, Cartmaster Swift. All the London originators, man.
Just some Philly DJs, Cosmic Kev and DJ Spin Bad. Those are just Philly staples and everything like that. So I will get with y'all next week, man. Good looking out, y'all.
Yeah.